Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to ReelTok episode 108. Today, it's Cam, myself, and Seth will be here. You don't see him on your screen if you're watching the video right now, but any minute now, he'll be popping in here. So it will be us three. George is packed with the New York Film Festival, and it's very fun seeing him with all the other movie talk people that we've had guests on this podcast before. You know, the Looks Like a Movie podcast bunch. Obviously, Sophie hanging around there as well. I'm sure there's others there that I just haven't seen pictures of yet, but kind of a fun little reunion going on in New York City right now for the New York Film Festival. So he's packed with screenings today. I think he's seeing Honora and The Brutalist today specifically. So we're thinking about him, but it'll be me, Cam, and Seth for this episode, which we got quite a lot of different stuff to talk about today. Obviously, Megalopolis was released. Probably the most divisive movie of the year amongst film people, a movie that no one will be talking about for non-film people. Then The Wild Robot, Cam was able to see. And then Wolves, Cam and I both watched as well, the John Watts Apple TV Plus movie with
I didn't realize that was John Watts. That makes sense.
It is John Watts. Brad Pitt and George Clooney reunited. But yeah, so we got 3 different movie reviews today. Also, like kind of an all-time trailer week. I've been traveling this week, so I didn't watch a lot of these live. But when I was prepping for this yesterday, I was like, a lot of trailers dropped this week. So we'll talk about all those as well. But as always, shout out to our executive producers, Sean Morales, Stefan Johnson, and Stefan Niebrick. Let me get this little banner up. Shout out to all of you for being executive producers of the podcast, and shout out to all our patrons as well. So check out the Discord down below, and
Thank you all.
Go check it out, join it. But yeah, with that, you know, like I said, any minute now, Seth will be in here. But while we wait, Cameron, what have you been up to this week, and how you been doing?
Yeah, I've been great. My parents have been on like vacation for the last 2 weeks in the land over by Seth. I should have texted him and told him to go find him, but they were everywhere. They were Munich, Amalfi Coast, Rome, bunch of different places. They loved it. But so that like we've kind of had the house to ourselves, but now they're back and they took Bailey for the day. So shout out to them. I appreciate that. They're going to watch him. We have a wedding tonight. Emma and I are going to. So hopefully, you know, all goes well. I'm sure the wedding will be good. Just bystander in this one, so I don't have to give a speech or anything, which I'm very thankful for. But get to see a lot of old like high school friends that I'm still close with, so I'm glad to see them. Other than that, not a whole lot going on this week. We're making progress on the house. It's starting to feel like it's coming together. We're done tiling basically everything. We haven't grouted the tile. And man, tiling, I hope to never tile again in my life. It is brutal on the, you know, not to, I don't know if this is old or young. I'm 25. It feels very old, but like relative terms, it's young. And like, I don't know. I can move around still. My joints are still good, but now it's like tiling. The back is aching. The joints the knuckles are cracking. It's brutal, man.
Yeah, our whole house here, we did the renovate. Our whole house was carpet, and it's now all tiles. So we tiled it all ourselves, and
that's insane.
It's the worst. Like, did you get knee pads, or just been like killing the knees?
Just killing.
I mean, even with the knee pads, still, like it's like like you said, it's unavoidable. Tiling, just like it's brutal on the body.
Okay, I'm gonna ignore the messy ground. I'm not much of a. This is a live reenactment. I'm not much of a knee guy, so I wasn't really kid toys doing this a whole lot. I was doing a lot of this.
Oh,
it's just brutal on the knees. Once.
Yeah. Just tiling is the worst.
All the viewers at home, you can enjoy that little viewing. But yeah, we had to get, man, never buy. I really like this house. We're very excited to move in. Never buy 100-year-old house because we called someone for a simple vent cleaning, and it's never simple. They found like asbestos and stuff like in the vents apparently, so that's not great. So we had to get that mitigated and killed. So I'm thankful we found it, but like just brutal stuff. Luckily we haven't been running our AC because like we don't live there, so I haven't been breathing that stuff in, but just still nasty stuff. So yeah, getting closer. I posted pictures the other day. Like truly have done a lot. Like the washer and dryer are there, they work, they're going, they can run a load of laundry. So good stuff all around. We're getting there, we're making progress. And hopefully One day I'll do pods from there. The place I'm doing the podcast, like I have to literally build a room because it's an unfinished basement that is just like nasty. So I'll have to like build a room basically to make it like look like a livable space. So if you ever see me podcasting from a dungeon, that's probably where it is in my new basement. But very excited, very excited.
Nice. So you guys have like you don't stay any nights there or anything? Like it's completely just like you're not living there whatsoever while you're renovating?
My mother-in-law, she lives there actually. So she's going to live with us for a little bit. She lives there right now and she has for like the last month, and she's a true trooper because like there's only the one bathroom upstairs. There's no like kitchen sink or there's no stove, oven, microwave, even like there's nothing there. So she's a true trooper living through it all. There was like a 2-week spurt where we were getting like drywall and everything hung in there. And so she moved out for that 2 weeks, but yeah, she's been trooping it. So shout out to her, because that's not something like that. Good for her. Not something I could do.
What's the rest of the house like right now? Because I feel like 95% of the pictures and videos I've seen is like the kitchen. Is the rest of it equally like in the middle of a tear down and repair, or no?
We so like outside of the kitchen, we put in a bathroom downstairs. We put in a or I guess there was a big room downstairs. We split it up to be a bathroom and a pantry. So we put up a wall and did drywall in there. The other like main rooms aren't really getting a ton done. And then upstairs isn't getting a ton done, except Bailey's room. We just painted a bunch, and we've got Bailey's room set up, and that looks good. Just so he had a place to like hang out kind of thing when we were there. And then we redid the laundry room. Upstairs didn't have a laundry room. So like we put one in. Up there had people put in the vent, put in the water lines, all of that for upstairs, rather than it was downstairs in the big room that we made a pantry and a bathroom. So it was like a weird like laundry bathroom connected to the kitchen. So yeah, it was just kind of odd. But yeah, did that. But it's really mostly the kitchen, which is insane. Like that's all we're messing with, which just sucks. But
no, the greatest American scam that they ever sold is that home ownership is the key to life. And you know, it's one of those things that it's a totally different generational thing where like it's just so different for our parents. But my buddy just bought his first house, and he's like texting me, he's like, this is kind of the worst. Like I've spent like thousands. Yep. I mean, you know, like some people are in different financial situations than others. Like he's not rich by any means, but he's doing fine for himself. But he's like, I spent like 15 grand my first month on this house, because it was kind of similar to like some of the kind of stuff you were saying, where like he bought the house and then like he starts like renovating. He's like, oh shit, we got like mold in these walls we got to take out. And he's like talking about how like he's like, how'd the inspector not catch this? Like I want to sue them. I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I think it's just one of the things that's like that's how America and the world works. Yeah. Like I think the second you buy the house, like and sign the inspector sheet, like,
you're screwed.
Any liability they have is completely gone.
Yeah.
And I think inspector's sole job is get the house sold. Like when you buy a house, you want the most nitpicky inspector in the world. When you sell a house, you want the laziest inspector in the world. It's just a mess.
My dad has told me multiple times he thinks my inspector sucked. He's like, I think your inspector sucked. He didn't. Apparently, like we had like 8 layers of shingles on one of our roofs. And I don't know what the Arizona, you guys don't really have shingles, I guess. You have the like,
we have like terracotta is what they're
is that what it is?
Yeah, okay. More Spanish, Mexican style roofs.
Yeah. So you don't have like the shingles, but apparently like 4 layers is the max you're allowed to have on a roof. And this one had like 8. So when we put in the skylight, it was really hard to get it sealed.
Isn't that like extra roof protection though, at least? Or is it
I would think, but dude, shingles are heavy. So it's like thousands of pounds weighing down on this roof. And my dad's like, how did they not like see that? Like it's a thick layer you could see from the side, and like how'd they not see that? And I guess like we had electrical like issues that he caught, and we got fixed by the previous owner because it was like a major safety hazard. But then there were apparently more that he didn't catch that we had to get fixed. So it's just a mess, man. And yeah, you're not wrong. Apparently inspectors are really bad. I trusted the dude with my life. I trust everything he told me. I was like, okay, we're fine. So yeah.
And inspectors, like in theory, like because they're like technically independent of like the selling agent and the buying agent, so it's supposed to be like an independent third party, which like makes sense and sounds all good. But it's one of those things like if you're an inspector in an inspecting company and you're like notoriously never getting houses sold, then like you're just not going to get business. And like I feel like real estate, like you want to have a good, you know, standing with people and people know your name, and like it's just one of those things where like you kind of have to be a certain way in order to keep getting hired. So like, even though you're technically not being pressured by the selling agent, you want to keep getting hired by people. So it's like, I don't know, inspectors suck. There's a lot of stuff wrong with the electrical in our house too. And it's whatever, but houses, complete sunk cost. If you're not, before I bought my house, people always said, like, if you're not going to be there for 2 years, don't buy a house, just rent instead. It's 2 years. You kind of recoup the losses. As someone who's been there 2.5 years and will be selling after like 3 years, I can confidently say I'm not going to recoup the losses when I sell my house. So I think it's like, at this point, I would recommend only buy a house if you're going to be there at least like 5 to 7 years.
Yeah,
other than that,
we originally wanted this house to be like a 3, I don't know, whatever house. Like it's not our forever home still, I don't think, but now that we've put so much into it, it's got to be 7, 8, like something like that. So yeah, we'll be there for a bit. And then once your kids grow up and everything, which like you're just not stuck, but like you're a little stuck, you know. So we got to get somewhere eventually. But
well, I'm excited to see it all come together. But what have you been watching this week other than the podcast stuff? Hello, Seth.
Seth guy. Hello. Other than the podcast stuff, so we're doing a La Haine review this week, so that's technically podcast stuff. But the other day was Batman Day, and I was like, you know what movie I haven't seen in a while is the Lego Batman movie. Good movie, funny, just a fun time. You know, I'm an animated shill, so don't get me wrong. But just a good watch, a happy-go-lucky movie that brings me a lot of joy.
I feel like you used to speak higher of it than that, or maybe it's other people. Like I think like Josiah and some other people are really high on it. But
I think Josiah. It's always been a 4. I kept it the same exact score. It's always been a 4 out of 5, 84 out of 100. So I really enjoy it. It's almost at that 4.5. But it's not a movie I like go back to all that much. I honestly was scrolling Max. It was literally, I saw a tweet that it was Batman Day. I started scrolling Max for no reason while I was working on the house. And the Lego movie was there, or the Lego Batman. I was like, yeah, this is fine while I'm half watching it, more so listening kind of thing while I'm tiling. So turn that on, enjoyed. I watched Justice League, The Flashpoint Paradox, and I've decided that animation is simply better than live action and in every way.
Especially for the Flash, because that's eons better than the Flash.
Yeah, just better story in general. I'm sick and tired of, like, being a franchise guy, I'm sick and tired of contracts and people freaking out that they want to get paid $50 million to be Joker or Batman or Superman or whoever it is, and then like not coming back for movies and because it costs too much. I'm tired of it. I want to see, if you're giving me a Justice League movie, I want to see all of the Justice League. I want to see everyone in it. I got a lot of comments on that saying like the DCAU kind of sucks and or is super mid, and I agree with that. So maybe it doesn't work every time, but for this movie it really does work because you see all the Batman, the Superman, you see everyone, and it's a good Flash story. Whereas in the Flash they're like, hey, let's just do Ezra Miller twice or something, or we can't get Christian Bale Batman. So they got a lot of Batmans, I guess. They got George Clooney, Keaton, and Ben Affleck. So I guess that worked, but they didn't have like a Superman. So they're like, get Sasha Calle as Supergirl, which she was great, but they got General Zod for no fucking reason, just because they could get Michael Shannon. Like it's really the actors that they could get. They couldn't get, I don't know. And then I watched Edge of Tomorrow, banger film.
Have you been logging stuff on Letterboxd, or have I just been so offline that I haven't been seeing you log these?
I've been really struggling. I log a lot at once. It feels like I've been struggling. Like I just logged Wolves and the Wild Robot. I feel like I watched Edge of Tomorrow like on the 25th or something, and then waited a day or two to log it for some reason. It has not been super quick. I think that's like after Edge of Tomorrow, I just went to bed kind of thing. So I don't know. I'm not gonna lie, Seth. I looked up Silence to see if I could watch it. It's not on any streaming though, and I wasn't paying for anything right now. I was like, I'm gonna watch Silence right now. I think Seth loves it. But then after that, I just turned on La Haine. But yeah, just good week of watches, good movies.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Seth, how have you been, and what have you been watching, sir?
Terrible. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay, because I'm at my mom's. I told you guys this the other day. Our boiler had like a leak in our apartment 3 weeks before we're moving, which is a nightmare. So we can't actually stay there for like a couple of weeks until it gets sorted. So had to come out to my mom's. That's why. Had some meetings here this week, and the internet's like a bit shit where I am in the attic, so hopefully it'll be okay. Yeah, just a really stressful week, all things considered. In terms of what I've watched, nothing. Let me see. So Megalopolis, obviously, we'll go over. I will have to jump off early today, unfortunately, but I just wanted to come on to speak about the magnum opus, some might say, of Francis Ford. What did I watch this week? Oh, I watched Carlito's Way, which is amazing, and I love it. That was a rewatch for me, brought him to a 5-star. I used to love it when I was a kid. I'm not sure why it wasn't a 5-star already. I rewatched Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull for like the first time in forever. Really, really liked it. It does surprise me that's like known as the bad one. I think it's like I have it level rated with Last Crusade.
The third one, yeah, same.
That's insane. The Last Crusade's fucking good.
Well,
it's amazing, actually.
Yeah, it is good. They're all good except from
Raiders is clearly the best.
And
then I think Temple of Doom
is good. Temple of Doom is.
I always had Last Crusade as number one. I like the Sean Connery.
Yeah, that's fair.
Indiana Jones. No, but I haven't watched this in a while. But I did really like Crystal Skull. The only one I don't like Temple of Doom, but I think Dial of Destiny is just by far the worst.
Oh yeah,
it's
for sure.
Such a miserable film. We did. I went last night. I went to a film quiz with my mom near us, hosted by this guy called Ali Plum, who's like he does like a lot of the junkets for Radio 1 and stuff here. Really nice guy. Got to him, did a quiz. I won a novelized version of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I guess I might read. You know,
that's dope.
I might get Anna to read it because she likes books more than films, and obviously we like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, so that might work. We came like 9th, which was a bit terrible for me, honestly, out of like 25 teams. But it was like a lot of questions were very pop culture-y, and by that what I mean, it was like a lot of Disney stuff. You know, there was a lot of like classic stuff in there as well. Like, you know, like there was like there's a cat round, and you had to identify what film it was from the cat and stuff, which I was quite good at, like an FOB round. But the ones, so there was a round where it was like it would play like a Disney song, and you had to like, attach the film, whatever. I was just terrible at that. The only ones I got were like the obvious ones, like a Toy Story, you know, like Incredibles, whatever, because they have like I've watched those at the time. Yeah. But yeah, I was really
I think us four, if we got, you know, us with George, if we got a trivia team going for movies, we'd be pretty on it. I think
we'd be very well rounded. I think we kind of
Disney and shit I can nail, and then we got George for the pop culture, Tyler for a lot of the artistic stuff, and Seth could go back a couple years as well. So I think we'd have a well-rounded team. I will say every time though you do trivia, there's always someone better, because I went and did like a college MCU trivia once with a buddy of mine who's big MCU guy. We did really well. We missed like three questions maybe. Got beat by one guy who didn't miss a single question. He was sitting alone at his own table and just nailed everything. I'm like, all right, you're just the man. So yeah,
it is wild, isn't it? Because like we were doing it, and my mom was a bit like me, where my mom watches, like, she has a very similar taste to me, so she like would share the Disney ones as well. We were doing it, like, wow, we've done quite well here, expecting, you know, at least like a top 5 placing. And then there was like a couple in front of us who were just like, we had to mark each other's things, you know, at the end of the round and stuff. They got like every single Disney one by far, like every single one easily, and they were getting like every single like a Marvel related one easy, and I just had no idea. Yeah, but no, that was good fun. It was enjoyable. It was good to do that for a bit, and then just very busy next week. What else did I watch? Nothing really this other than that this week. I watched The Untouchables again, which is another De Palma film. I watched The Last Night. I didn't hate The Last Night, I have to be honest. Fucking stupid film. Like, who would have thought to mix Merlin legend, you know, Arthur, with Transformers lore? Like,
you watched it last night. What'd you give it?
A 2.5. I didn't like.
That's fucking atrocious, man. I'm sorry.
2.5.
That's the worst. That's the worst movie of all time.
Terrible.
That movie's the worst movie of all time.
I actually liked the first like half of it. I think it goes like I don't know, man. Like there's always something I can take from the Michael Bay ones. Whereas like
yuck.
I didn't like it. I watched Bumblebee as well. I didn't love it, but I think I haven't logged it yet. I'm gonna leave it at 3. So it was like okay. Like I expected to hate that one just because, you know, Bayless. But as I watch these films, the only bad one for me and it's so bad, is Rise of the Beast.
Yeah,
I just
that's easily the worst.
When I look back at that, I'm like, that was so fucking shit.
The last night's so much worse. But
no, it's not. It's actually okay, honestly.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of
the only thing they could do to pull me back in is if they like just go full off the wall with the Transformers G.I. Joe movie and just like name it like Transjomers or something. Then like I could maybe be back in, but
yeah, it's a
not
crazy name.
Not looking good, man.
But that's kind of it for me this week. Not too much other than that.
Nice. Well, I hope your boiler gets sorted. I think that's not a term we use here in America, so I googled it. I believe that's like a furnace, so something that keeps the house heated. Is that what the boiler is?
Yeah. So it's like boiling water.
Yep.
Gotcha. House heating, whatever. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think most furnaces around here are like gas based, so it wouldn't be like a boiler. So I think that's probably why the term hasn't like
most here
over. Okay.
A lot of ones here are gas based, but it was like it's different because of ours. I don't know. The apartment building's just kind of weird. Where we're moving is gas. That'll be easier. But it's a bit of a nightmare. Like it turns out it'd been going on a while. And there was like mold on the door as well. So I was like, "Fuck that! We're not staying here." And like I don't know, it's just a massive hassle. It makes it worse that we're literally moving on the 17th. And the worst part is about us moving. So we found the place like a month ago. We signed the agreement. They were like, okay, you can move in on the 10th because I'm going to London Film Festival on the 13th, 14th, like a week. And then a week later, they were like, oh, actually, it's the 17th. So I'm not even going to be here when we move, which is a bit of a fucking nightmare for right now. Like, we've got a few family members helping us, but like, I don't know, they just like kind of fucking pissed us off a little bit. And then the boiler goes, and it's like, oh, now we have to stay at my mum's for a few days. And obviously, we just got the new kitten as well. Our mum's got a dog. So we have to like keep them separate for a little bit and whatever. Yeah, it's just a nightmare week, honestly.
Yeah, that sounds awful. I hope it gets sorted soon. But yeah, before you joined, Cam was talking about all his house renovations. We were just kind of talking about how like just like housing situations are just like kind of the worst, and they always suck. And like there's always something wrong. It just seems like humans as a species have just overcomplicated shelter as being such a necessary need, and there's just they're to the point now where there's just so many things that can go wrong, like with the gas leaking, water creating mold, like electric going out. Like there's just so many points of failure now. It's like we need to go back to the
old days,
just where everything's lit by like a little wax candle and
like
just keep things simple.
Stick, rubbing two sticks together and making fire with that. That'd be kind of crazy.
Yep. It would probably do well for a lot of people's souls. But yeah, so my week been hectic once again. It's been a hectic fall. It's going to still be hectic. I was traveling once again. I think I tweeted, I was on 10 flights in 15 days. So just crazy amount of air travel. I will be flying again this week. I'll be in Detroit a couple days, and I believe the week after that I might be in Detroit again. So I'm flying everywhere for work right now. I think I'm going on 6 weeks in a row of traveling somewhere. So I'm exhausted. I'm beaten down. I'm switching time zones every freaking week. And air travel just sucks the life out of you. If you can't tell from hearing me, I'm a little stuffy. I'm sick. I was like dead sick 2 days ago. Yesterday, a little better. Today, a little better, but hopefully I can get over that. But just, I think all the travel and all the lack of sleep has just been getting to me finally. So I've just been sick now, battling that. So it hasn't been a fun week. This week I was in Pennsylvania, not Detroit, but flying all around, tired of it, but it's not going to be ending anytime soon. And at least the next 2 weeks I have travel scheduled. So we'll see if this ever ends, but at least racking up the travel rewards. So that's fun at least, but not really worth it at this point. But in terms of what I've been watching, not a whole lot. So obviously we'll talk Megalopolis on the pod. Cam and I will talk Wolves. But other than that, watched Furiosa, and similar to what Cam was saying about Letterboxd, like I watched 2 movies yesterday, but I think I logged like 5 on Letterboxd because like with all my travel and just being tired and lazy, and I usually like to write a little something. So like I just like have been putting off writing everything about all these reviews. So finally just like threw a bunch on. So like I put Furiosa between Megalopolis and Wolves because like I saw Megalopolis. I was like, I should probably review that first because people will be expecting it. So Furiosa, like I reviewed yesterday night, but like really I watched it like 4 days ago, but rewatched it. Love that movie so much. It was on my flight to Detroit like a week ago. It was a red eye, so like you should sleep during those because I was going to go right off the plane and right to a meeting, so I needed to sleep. But the guy next to me fired up Furiosa, and I was like, damn it, man, I just want to stay awake and watch Furiosa. But I was a smart man. I fell asleep. I went to bed. But then, my flight home, I took the opportunity, like, okay, I'm actually going to watch Furiosa. And I was available on the flight. Watched it. I was locked in. Such a great movie. Kind of said this in my review. It's like so crazy that there's still people out there that just like haven't seen this movie, that loved Mad Max Fury Road, but just refuse to watch this. If Mad Max Wasteland gets greenlit, then cool. Furiosa can be our fun little secret and screw everyone who doubted it. If it doesn't, though, then fuck all you guys, because we needed you at the box office.
I don't think it will get greenlit like it did so badly.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like the Australian government like subsidizes like half of George Miller's movies. So like there might be some funky way where they get it made. So I think they take a lot of pride in it. So shout out you, Nalbus. Start a charity fundraiser over there. Get Harry Argyle a part of it as well. Just get all the Australians to just start, 5K every get someone to sponsor you. Every kilometer you run will be $1,000 towards the budget of Mad Max Wasteland. But Furiosa 5-star for me. And then this is like such a classic, like younger person saying something that older people used to do and be like, oh, this is kind of nice. Why don't we do this anymore? And it's like, we used to have this and now it's gone. But where I'm going with this is watch Uncut Gems in the Lighthouse in my hotel on HBO, like the TV channel, which, man, that's just so nice. You don't even have to worry about wasting time selecting a movie. You just go to a TV channel and you just get to watch a full movie with no commercials. And just right when Uncut Gems ended, the Lighthouse starts right up. And it's like, man, this is kind of nice. Not needing to look through a streaming service. Yeah. It's just on a TV channel, playing a movie, no commercial. Kind of the life. We kind of strayed away from just something great that we used to have. But Uncut Gems, it was a 4-star for me, stayed at a 4-star. The Lighthouse is up to a 4-star now for me, so I've watched it 3 times, and it was a 3.5 star in the first watch, a 3-star in the second watch, and a 4-star in the third watch. So really just a movie that will hit me differently depending on how I'm watching it, because I'm all over the place there. But yeah, that was when I couldn't sleep, and ended up oversleeping my work meeting for the first time in my life ever after this. So it was fun, but again, it just kind of speaks to I'm just so overly worked right now with my day job. So haven't been posting much on TikTok lately. Want to hopefully get back on that because I miss it. I miss being in a rhythm, but maybe one day. There's no light at the end of the tunnel yet. But that's kind of how I've been: busy, sick, hectic. But we're gonna get through this flu game of an episode. But now we will get into Megalopolis, which kind of like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, it's like the most divisive movie of the year for film people, and just a nothing movie of the year for non-film people that no one else will really see. So it's just kind of like a fun debate inside the film community for the most part. But Megalopolis, the magnum opus, the likely final film from Francis Ford Coppola, which was, decades and decades and decades in the making, financed the whole movie himself. Well, mostly himself, but through his kind of wine ventures. But the synopsis: if you can't see a better future, build one. Genius artist Caesar Catalina seeks to leap the city of New Rome into a utopian, idealistic future, while his opposition, Mayor Franklin Cicero, remains committed to a regressive status quo, perpetuating greed, special interests, and partisan warfare. Torn between them is a socialite, Julia Cicero, the mayor's daughter, whose love for Caesar has divided her loyalties, forcing her to discover what she truly believes humanity deserves. Starring Adam Driver, Natalie Emmanuel, Giancarlo Esposito, Aubrey Plaza, Shia LaBeouf, John Voight, Jason Schwartzman, Grace Vanderwall, Lawrence Fishburne, Dustin Hoffman. Stacked cast, decade plus in the making, but decades plus in terms of the writing and production, and it's crazy, everything about it. So yeah, wild one. Right now, the rate it's still so new that the ratings are shifting all over the place. But right now it's at a 2.6, but like last night I swear it was at a 2.8. So it's really just so new that it's finding a while till we figure out what it sits at here. But yeah, it'll be us 3 going through this review. We'll start with Cam. What you saw it not first, but you saw it Thursday night. What were your thoughts?
I didn't hate it as much as George. It's kind of a slog to get through. It's a messy movie, kind of all over the place, but looks incredible. I think is the biggest takeaway for most everyone that goes and sees it. First off, like Francis Ford Coppola, I think is a major piece of shit. I think there's many things that make him a piece of shit. and some other things that people have like commented on my letterbox review that I didn't really know about, I've not done any fact checking on or anything, but like I think it's pretty clear he's a piece of shit. I don't think necessarily like we need to talk about that, but like I think anyone giving this a positive review, people are like, how can you support this film? If we go see this movie, it's not changing the fact that this thing's going to make like $3 at the box office, and those $3 coming from us. Like it's this thing is going to be a mega flop and is going to leave zero impact on the cultural zeitgeist of the world.
D+ on Cinema Score, by the way. So yeah, absolutely not.
Is that bad? I don't.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's out of like an A, so D+. Yeah, you don't want to get those in school.
I don't think I've seen anything that low ever, really, honestly.
Yeah.
Does anything get an A?
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of things get an A. Like
I don't really.
I think
like the Substance got like a B+, I think. So like, and that's
wow, that's quite impressive.
Yeah, so like a D+ is like unheard of.
Yeah. So I don't think we necessarily need to get into that, but like I think it's pretty obvious he's a piece of shit. So whatever you want to believe or not believe, I guess, whatever you want to like say about the film, because of that, that's totally fine. I think, yeah, it just kind of runs dry because it's pretty well known he's just a shit person. But yeah, it's a movie that for me didn't necessarily do anything. I didn't hate every minute of it, but I definitely didn't love it by any sense of the imagination. It was nice. Normally I go to movie. This thing would have put me to sleep. Normally I go to movies at like 10:30 at night because it's just when Bailey is asleep and it's when I have time. Super small release, only was able to see this at 6 p.m. So had to dip out from the fam. Thank you, Emma and parents for watching Bailey at the time. But like this thing would have put me to sleep at 10:30. I'll be honest. So I'm glad I got to see it in the afternoon.
How many people were in your theater? Approximately
like two. And one guy was ripping Bud Lights, man, like 4 or 5 during the movie. It was incredible. He was
Francis Ford Coppola probably appreciate that, honestly.
Yeah, that's awesome. It was awesome, man. I was honestly more entertained by the guy ripping Bud Lights during this thing. Just like every 20 minutes there was a new crack of the can, and they were canned Bud Lights. So like every 20 minutes there was a new crack, and I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. This is Electric City right here. I'm glad you brought that up because I would have forgotten about it. Yeah, I think it's a mess. I think it's kind of boring. I don't love the characters. I think every guy in this movie I hated. Every girl in this movie I really enjoyed. I think this is my least favorite Adam Driver performance. Shia LaBeouf is kind of doing his like Sam Witwicky, but not really. But then you have Natalie Emmanuel.
Yep.
I think she's really good. I think Aubrey Plaza is amazing in everything. Aubrey Plaza exudes just this hot energy, and she does it really well in this. And she's doing it as well in Agatha All Along right now. But yeah, I think she's really good. Giancarlo Esposito is doing the same shtick he's always doing, where he's like kind of the villain, kind of not, but he's like, I'm menacing. But yeah, I think it's a middle of the road movie for me. I think this is I told you guys, I put it in my letterbox review. I think if you showed this to a group of friends in college, they'd beat you with sticks. They'd say,
I love that comment.
What the fuck's wrong with you, man? This sucks. This is the worst thing ever. I don't necessarily think it's that bad. But I watch a lot of movies. I think if this is one of your 10, 11 movies that you see in an entire year, it's going to be at the bottom of your list, and it's going to be about as low as you can get on a movie. But we can talk more about it. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts because I know you're a lot higher on it than me. But yeah, I have it at like 47 out of 100 right now.
Seth, what are your spoiler-free thoughts on Megalopolis?
Yeah, kind of what I expected, kind of not. I think I went into this. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I think it's when you've watched Francis Ford Coppola's career as a filmmaker, and you've seen kind of more of his late stage, like a Twixt or a Tetro, there's a certain stylistic choice he makes. And so I was going into this expecting a very maximalist attempt visually. Obviously, after we saw the trailers, this kind of very dystopian digital age city. And I think it works in many aspects. I think when I left the cinema after seeing this, I I didn't know what I'd seen. I actually didn't find it boring, to be honest. I found it all the way through really interesting. I think Francis Ford Coppola puts a lot into this in terms of ideas. On this kind of one man's. I think he actually quoted, or someone quoted, I think it was John Carlos Esposito's character quoted, like creation of his Garden of Eden, of his paradise amid this world that is, having this societal collapse. And there's loads of different power forces. You've got the Crassus family, then you've got John Carlos Esposito, and obviously you've got Adam Driver's character. And I think he presents it well in terms of, okay, this is the future. We have whatever and how to evade that. But I also don't know if much is really gone into that's not explicitly explained. That was kind of my main issue. I think a lot of this film is really just head on told to you. But I also think it's kind of, I think I said this in my review, it's really earnest. Like it comes from a very sincere place. And I think you can tell this is, extends his career past his, not just as a late stage career like his recent ones in terms of thematically, but also has the maximalist attempts. I think I said in my review of like a Dracula and Apocalypse Now. I think that some of the images in this are fucking like insane. This film is like a one of one. You're not seeing split screens used like that. You're not seeing dissolves used like that. It's not commonplace in today's kind of cinematic landscape. It really is like a visual fucking feast for the eyes and feast for the senses. There's kind of one visual sequence towards the back end of the film. You guys will know which one I'm talking about with Adam Driver. It's just fucking insane, and you never see that. And I really appreciate the creativity that goes into place because I think it is just unlike anything I've seen. I think the cohesion isn't something that necessarily bothers me as much as most people, but I do think maybe it could have used a little bit more. I don't know, it's difficult because it's quite a head-scratching narrative. Nothing really plays together. It's obvious what he's saying about collapse and the future and dystopia and humanity and how we can save it and the environment and whatever. What do we get that's kind of beyond that? I don't know. Some of the stuff I loved, like I think this film is quite deliberately funny as well. Like John Voight. Shit guy, by the way, but his character was hilarious. Like,
why's everyone? Why? See, that's the other thing. They're all shit people. Everyone in this movie is like a shit past, except like I don't know. I don't think Adam Driver or like Aubrey Plaza, Natalie Emanuel have done anything, but maybe they have. I don't know, but
yeah,
it feels like a lot of controversial people in this damn thing.
A lot of dodgy people in this. But his character was fucking hilarious, especially in that final moment, big reveal, which we'll speak about. Well, not reveal, but moment with his character. It's almost like so messy that I had this kind of admiration for it, and I was just sat there with a smile on my face at the audacity of some of the sequences, especially those that kind of involved more of Adam Driver's connection with time. Like the one we saw right at the start, which was in the trailer when he's kind of leaning off and he goes time stop whatever. But more the ones which kind of involve it later on down the line, and obviously the ones kind of involve his family and his sights and what he sees and stuff like that. But I almost found it strangely profound. Like there's some sort of anecdotal moment, there's some like speeches that feel profound and feel in a way emotionally taxing. I think that the final, the ending, which I obviously won't go into what happens, but I really liked that because it almost gave an optimistic view after a film that was just full of, like I said earlier, power plays and chaos and absurdity in an approach that is not out of the norm for Coppola, especially if you look at his late works, but also is definitely out of the norm of the current landscape of film. I really, really enjoyed this. There are things that I didn't like as much. A lot of it felt like this overly ridiculous opera. Like it was a scene in the middle, which I just didn't care for, with a particular set of clowns that I wasn't too bothered on. But overall, I really, really enjoyed it. I think it's entirely different. It's one of one. It's not going to be for everyone, as Cam said. I think a lot of people are hating this. Like I posted a TikTok review, people hated it. People in the cinema, like my screen, it was packed. I think like I heard people say when it finished, it was sat in this like old couple. I don't know why the fuck they were there, but they were just like, man, like I have no idea what I watched. And I was the same, but they were saying it in more of like a negative sense, where I was saying it in more of a positive way. But yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's a maximalist endeavor that is like a culmination of Francis' life work, especially if this is really his life work. He's been in the making for 40 years, or at least, being in the motion, writing stuff for 4 years. That is messy to a fault at points, but also messy that only adds to my admiration for it and its creativity. But yeah, I give it a 3.5. Crazy ride, and kind of what I expected, but also not. It's a difficult one. Some of the shots of the year, though, some of them are fucking insane, like insane.
Yeah, Megalopolis really is just a singular experience. As something like I've never experienced before, probably will never really experience again. The pros and cons of it really both lie in the fact that this is a magnum opus of his career. And on my Instagram post, like someone was like, this isn't his magnum opus. Someone's like, do you know what magnum opus means? It means the best work of their career, which is clearly The Godfather. And then I responded, I was like, no, magnum opus means the most important work of their career. And to Francis Ford Coppola, I think it's kind of undeniable that Megalopolis is by far the most important work of his career, seeing as it's the movie he's been working towards his entire career. It's one of those things that obviously people aren't in the film community aren't going to like understand like the backstory of this, because why would they? Like no one's like in their free time just going to like read up on like backstories of movies if they're not passionate about movies. But so it's kind of like a hard sell to tell someone that like this is a magnum opus for Francis Ford Coppola if they don't care to like investigate. But anyone who knows like a minuscule amount about this movie would be like, yeah, obviously this is probably the most important movie he's made by a long margin. So I think that's a pro of this. This is a movie that you can tell feels like a culmination of a full career. Everything and all the ideas he's presented throughout the decades are all summarized here and kind of presented in like a one last hurrah and just this maximalist, bombastic insanity, but also the negativity that comes from being a magnum opus, from being kind of his last film or like the film he's been building everything towards. Is a lot of the messiness comes from that. I feel like he has a lot of ideas he wants to get across here. A lot like the kind of main thread I feel like he's pulling at obviously is like humanity, society, the collapse of it, what's kind of led to the collapse of it, the disparity between the rich and the poor. But then also like, he just has tangents, just go on a little diatribe about cancel culture, go on a little side about deep fakes and technology. And it just kind of really felt like, someone who knows this is their last film. So he's like, oh, there's an idea. Just throw this in there. And then when you watch it, like, this scene doesn't really fit, but like, it's like, whatever.
Feels like it should be longer. When you think about the whole time I thought about this, when this was first announced, this is like kind of, that it was in production. I was imagining like a 4 hour, like a Brutalist sort of run time.
Yep.
Which it was like what, 2:15, 2:20?
Yeah, like just about right around there. Which to Cam's credit, like there was the middle part of this movie. Like I wasn't really bored throughout the first third or the final third. The middle so much visual, but the middle third was when I was kind of like, looking at the watch a bit. I'm like, oh, where are we at in like the time of this? Because I was like, the middle third bored me a bit for sure. So when I say I wish it was longer,
I like the end. I agree with that.
Yeah, but when I say I wish it could be longer, I'm not saying that I was completely captivated by everything in this movie, but it just felt like the ideas could have been fleshed out more. But it just felt like a lot of stuff in here he just like threw in because like I want to just make a little note about this part of society and this little
if this is my last go, let me just say this as well.
So kind of weird, but visually, like Seth and Cam said, like this movie is just visually stunning, just a digital feast. Just some of the craziest shots and sequences, and the way this is edited and cut together, and overlays and split screens and like everything Seth's talking about is just crazy, just insane. There's like so many moments where like it would just ratchet up to like a roller coaster ride where like you were gonna strap in for like 3 minutes straight of like the craziest visuals.
They were my favorite.
Yeah, electric moments. So just I had so much fun visually this movie, and it just felt so singular and something that I've just never seen anything like it before. So appreciated the hell out of that. Disagree with Cam on the performances. I think Adam Driver is really special here in the sense that if I had to rank Adam Driver performances, I wouldn't say this is my favorite, but I would say his performance felt like something I couldn't see anyone else pulling off because he felt so locked into Francis Ford Coppola's vision here that he pulled it off so well. But I thought Shia LaBeouf was incredible. Like I truly can't see anyone else, and similar in the way of Adam Driver, where I really can't see
Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, and that's fair. I don't blame you. He's a terrible person, but
not even that. I just like
his performance.
Even in the Transformers, I'm like, God, this guy's just fucking going crazy. Or like,
I mean,
holes.
This movie is low key kind of full of people who kind of have a shtick. Like, I like Aubrey Plaza. You can't deny that she has a shtick. She's a very
sexy.
One note. Well, and has like the monotone kind of like dry humor type of thing. Like it's kind of her thing. She's kind of just like, that's why her and Chris Pratt were like perfect in Parks and Rec. They have kind of like a similar like sense of humor together. So, but she's kind of just very one note in her performances and most stuff. Giancarlo Esposito, very one note and a lot of stuff. And Shia LaBeouf like was very much Shia LaBeouf, and even Jason Schwartzman, he's kind of barely in this, which I expected him to be in it more.
Dustin Hoffman as well.
Yeah, and Lawrence Fishburne also, a very Lawrence Fishburne performance. Like it's kind of just a movie with a lot of actors who like kind of have a shtick, but they do it well. But I just couldn't see Adam Driver or Shia LaBeouf's characters being played by anyone other than those two. So I think they did very well for that, and I really like the performances.
While we're on the note of actors, shout out Grace Vanderwaal, because I watched her like America's Got Talent performance like a bunch, when it came out, because it's like very, very good. And then as soon as she starts playing the ukulele in this thing, I'm like, I feel like I know this chick from somewhere. And
I didn't know who that was.
Oh yeah, she like got famous on America's Got Talent for writing and like playing her own original song at like.
It's like I don't know my name or something is what.
Yeah, she's like I loved it too. Like very good performance, and now like shout out her for being in this. And then she's got her stick as well, where she's just like, I can play the ukulele. Yeah, hit me with the ukulele, I can play it.
I appreciated the cameo of Sofia Coppola's daughter, the one who made that iconic TikTok about like being mad that her parents aren't letting her like take a helicopter to some private island or something. She got a cameo in this as well. So I think there's a lot of good stuff here. I think it's a very optimistic ending and very earnest attempt at kind of hoping the best for the world ahead. I will say the person behind me when the final like scene played, or like, because it kind of ends on like a screen where it just has some text on it, which isn't spoiling anything, but that's just like the last shot. And the guy behind me, he's like, I summarized it in like a TikTok video and tweeted him just saying like, fuck you, Hollywood elites. But he went on for like 3 sentences. He was like, he stood up. He was like, fuck you, Hollywood, and your $6 million houses, thinking you guys know what's best for the future and think you got all figured out, which low key, like very fair and valid. Cause I think the movie was earnest and optimistic, but there was definitely a sense throughout this whole movie of like this rich dude kind of just like painting like an optimistic vision of the future where it just seems like a little out of touch with reality. But I think that's part of the earnestness that like is endearing from a filmmaker to wish for a better world. But I can see why like someone who's like maybe more blue collar might look at it and be like, oh, fuck this. But
especially when you've got scenes, is this a spoiler? Tyler, put the spoilers things up for a sec.
Yep.
When you've got scenes that are like when they're naming the baby and they're like, if it's a boy, we're going to call it Francis. That's
and if it's a girl, it's Sunny Hope.
Sunny Hope. That is crazy. Like
that's not a spoiler.
It kind of is. But it kind of is.
I mean, I guess it's a spoiler that they have a kid.
Well, no, I had a good like smiley moment when that happened. I want people to experience that smiley moment.
Yeah,
interesting.
But it's also like like crazy to do too.
It's fucking insane. It's going to be tough in general to make a film like this and it not appear, just egotistical as hell, which Coppola is, and for good reason. I think most good directors are. But there are several moments in this that are just overly insane. That definitely brought a smile to my face. Also, on the note of that, Tyler, you were saying he was saying that there was like 2 people behind me, and at the end when the credits are about to roll, it says dedicated to my wife Eleanor, who we know passed away, I think when the trailer released. 2 people behind me laughed at that, and I was like, that's fucking insane. That's insane. Because I think she passed away like it was as the trailer released, wasn't it? Obviously, she was like a massive part of the project or whatever. I was like, that's fucking crazy. But yeah, it's a tough film because it's going to be hard to balance an egotistical nature within a film like this, especially coming from someone like him as well. But I thought the son and the daughter part was really funny. The names one,
for sure. And like my screening had probably like 15 people in it, and there were like 6 people when it ended. So he kind of like right when the credits that rolled, he was like yelling and pissed and walked out. I thought it was kind of hilarious. Like him just like, I didn't think the end title saying dedicated my was hilarious. That him yelling and being so mad was hilarious. But yeah, a lot of people walked out during the movie. About an hour in, people started filtering out left and right. And then one woman in the back was like, this is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. And then 2 nice older ladies like walked up to me because I was staying throughout the whole credits, mainly because like I didn't really want to walk out. Maybe I stayed through the credits simply because I didn't want to walk out with these other people who were going to like ask me what I thought, because I did like the movie because it was just such a crazy experience. But these 2 older ladies were walking down, like spoke to me, and they're like, "Did you like that movie?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I mean, I don't really like to. When I know the answer is going to be they hated it, I don't want to be like, yeah, I love this." I was like, "Oh yeah, it's such a crazy experience, huh?" And they were like, "Did you?" They asked because they're probably like, I don't know, 80 or so, 70. And they were like, it seems like a movie more suited towards your generation as opposed to the older one. And I was like, I mean, the director who wrote and directed the movie is like close to like 90, so I don't really know. And then like, I guess. And then the other woman's like, seemed like they edited out all the good parts. I thought it was like trying to be like a funny
Real.
joke, but like she was just so straight faced. I was like, oh, I was like, yeah, it was a crazy movie, and you know, it's not a palatable movie. Like I think if you go into a random room of people, just grab someone and make them watch this movie, they're gonna be like, that was fucking shit. So it's like a movie that I can totally understand people disliking. But you know, a lot with like Adam Driver, like in his love for his dead wife in this, like, which is kind of wild because like his wife didn't die until like after this movie was made, but you know, he's kind of already foreshadowing and speaking about, you know, having a career so focused on building these films, but you know, leaving family by the wayside, and then once they're gone, you kind of realize it. So he kind of like was seeing the future a little bit there with like Adam Driver's character and his love for his wife, and being torn between loving his family and supporting his family while also trying to build this perfect vision that seems impossible to reach. But I mean, it ends up, you know, being something you try and build towards. But Cam, you're going to say something?
Yeah, I want to make note of like what the production actually is, just for people listening if they don't like truly know. This movie like was conceived like 40 years ago. So I pulled up a timeline, and like he says he has the idea for it in 1977, but in like 1983, he wrote like 400 pages of script fragments and screenplay and just different notes about the movie. So it truly is something like he's been working on since like 1983 at the very least. He had other projects, obviously Godfather Part 2, Godfather Part 3, all of those coming out. He had plenty of different like things that he was working on. And then like in 2001, he was kind of picking this back up, but obviously being a very like metropolis, New York centered movie after September 11th kind of took like a major hit. He had a lot of stuff shot for it. And then he was doing other projects like Bram Stoker's Dracula. God damn it. It's every time it's Bram Stoker's. Jack he was working on. And so he's doing a bunch of different things. And then he kind of just got trapped in development hell, I guess, in 2006 is when this Osvaldo Golijov, I hope I pronounced that somewhat correct, is started like doing the composition for the movie. But he kind of didn't really give him anything. He's just kind of made like has said like, hey, give a grand composition for this movie that's not even made right now about this perfect city. And then, you know, fast forward a couple years, he's got to sell his wine company. Like you said, sells it for about 120 million, or sells a portion of it. I guess he's still doing just fine. He gets Adam Driver to sign on, and then the movie starts getting made around like 2019 time, is when he finally gets a chance. Like COVID obviously takes it, adds some time to it. And then like has like just a bunch more setbacks, but eventually finally gets it made. So it is truly something he's been working on like forever. I think in like 1996 or something I was reading, he basically said it's impossible to make right now. And you watch it nowadays and you're like, this isn't really that much. But like, yeah, 1990 or 1997, how are you going to make this grand world in these digital shots? Like it's very difficult to do all this editing and everything. So yeah, you need the technology of now. So impressive that, you know, you can stick with something for 40 years, you know, after 2 years, if something hasn't happened for me, I'm calling it quits. That's good enough. We're done. But I think it's just crazy how long a movie takes to make. You don't really think, even like in 2019, when you have all the technology, like you don't think of things are just going to be impacted like crazy. It's going to not release for another 5 years. So impressive stuff that it takes that long.
No, I appreciate you going through that timeline. That was good, and definitely something we should have covered. So good work there. And I think, you know, it makes sense. You tried to pick it back up in the early 2000s. I think George Lucas kind of paved the way of these digital films with the prequels. Yeah. And he probably watched, you know, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones. Is like, this is exactly what I need, and I'm going for with like a megalopolis type city with this just digital dreamscape. But
very reminiscent, you know, the cityscapes. When he's on the kind of the clock and he's like hanging on the things in them, of like some of the sequences in like Revenge of the Sith, for example, when like Anakin and
Obi-Wan,
no,
Padme,
yes, Anakin and Padme are like,
look at me, Star Wars balling over the
I was about to say,
I didn't know who you were like going for. Qui-Gon,
you know, when they're like when they're like behind all the cityscapes. And it's like kind of they're in the rooms, or they're outside on the balcony, and it's the kind of
like,
yeah, you know what I mean. Very reminiscent of that. Yeah. It's very obvious. Kind of digitally took a lot of inspiration there.
Mm-hmm.
It is wild how long it took to make, and it's also why it's so difficult to review something like this because, like Tyler said, I think it comes with experience how many more ideas he put in this as well. Like, it's not something that's been conceived from day one, and like Tyler said, I think it's something where you go through the film and there's a central point to it all. But then as things progress, there's these little things like Tyler says, exploring cancel culture, the deep fake sequence, which obviously we can cover as well, and loads of things. But it kind of, I see it's always going to be tough to. That's kind of a lot of the problem I have with just multiple films where there's stuff to the brim of ideas, but none of them really for me are beyond anything other than the surface, and they're all kind of stated anyway. The enjoyment I got from this was just the fucking awe-inspiring visual sequences mainly, where we get like several of these 2-3 minute sequences of just dissolves, split screens, like
multiple images overlaid on top of each other. Just
overlay, just multiple overlays, which is something that was probably more common a couple decades ago. Not common as such, but utilized more.
Which is crazy because it seems so much easier to do nowadays. So.
Yeah, it's weird. I often think that, I mean, again, like I think that filmmakers try not to do it because it's like it looks cheap to a lot of people. They believe, like for example, I was watching the Revenge of the Sith. Think about it, it's like in the 2000s, the digital ones like Phantom Menace, Revenge of the Sith. A lot of the they use the slide transition like all the time.
Yeah.
You like rarely ever see that.
Also, like the kind of like clock wiper,
the
like
clockwork. Yeah. I think that's cool as fuck, man. Like, and it also like it gives you kind of a sense of old school filmmaking, which I think is also just an approach that you're going to take and it's going to extend your enjoyment. But I like when risks are taken. It's just, this is like I said, it's one of one. You're not seeing visual sequences like this. You're not seeing attempts like this. I will actively search for films now that I know have just these, attempts at things. This is why I love Brian De Palma so much, because his utilization of split diopters. That's why I like some of the we get into John Ford recently, because in some of the old westerns they use like the dolly shots like a lot.
And, a lot of Hitchcock.
A lot of Hitchcock, yeah, exactly. And it's like I'll look for these because it's techniques and it's ideas visually and creatively that we rarely see anymore. And that's why I think that the blockbuster landscape is so boring. When you get one that attempts something, and not just blockbusters, just films, they stand out even more so. Kind of like After Sun, I think it was a very innovative way to show things, especially some of the home footage shots, stuff like that. And when you get a film like this is why I was so intrigued by it, because it takes so many risks. And Coppola isn't one to shy away. Like we saw it in Twixt, for example. There's some crazy shit in that you just don't see. And this is almost like just a maximalist version visually, which I can't express it, which is why I enjoy this film. But I do think there are some issues with how much is in it, like
for sure. We'll get into our spoilers section now, so kind of leave it there for Megalopolis in terms of the non-spoilers. So 4-star from me, 3.5 from Seth, 2.5 from Cam, and then 1 or 1.5 from Georgia. I don't have his letterbox pulled up.
1.5, I think.
Yeah. Kind of like I said, my final line of my letterbox review, this is a movie that I think deserves to be seen on the biggest screen possible, but at the same time, I am excited for it to flop because, again, like Cam said, like Francis Ford Coppola is a piece of shit. The production of this is kind of piece of shit. A lot of people involved, so like tough one because like should be seen on a big screen. Don't really want to make money, so pick your poison. If you weren't inspired by that, but we'll go on to spoilers now. And first thing that I want to start off with, Seth, is it's funny because my reaction to this movie is actually pretty similar to like The Substance in a lot of ways, where, I mean, this movie is visually way more crazy, but where I thought it was very on the nose, but to the point where it was a feature, not a detractor. I didn't think there was much beneath what was being told. And then the ending is like such a crazy swing that like it made me, I know so you said in your review that you really liked the ending, which I think I agree, but because I said I didn't like the ending, but technically what I didn't like was like, we'll just get into it. The Robin Hood moment. I don't think I didn't like it. I just don't know if it fully worked for me. The whole Robin Hood ending. I like the end that you're talking about, like the optimistic future, and like when the Megalopolis was there, and like she's like, take my hand, come with me. That I like that ending, but I meant like 20 minutes before that. The whole like, look at my boner, and he's like,
that was awful. That was the worst joke in any movie in 2024. Worse than everything.
Made me laugh though. I can't.
Worse than
everything in Deadpool. I don't know. So out of pocket.
No, that was awful.
I don't know if John Voight knew what he was doing half the time. Like some of the lines he had were like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Yeah, I didn't know how much of his character was written to be that way, and how much of it was like John Voight just like,
him. Yeah.
That was worse than any joke in Deadpool Wolverine, and you can't convince me otherwise.
It was a stupid joke. Yeah, it didn't work for me. I don't know.
That's awful.
The Robin, the Robin Hood moment. Yeah, that sequence is weird because it's kind of, again, it just goes back to the power plays and the untrust of it all. I just found that sequence so fucking silly, to be honest. And it made me laugh a lot. Like, it's the stupidest, dumbest thing ever. The reason I love the ending wasn't primarily that; it was more the ending,
right?
You know, the sequence with Giancarlo Esposito, Adam Driver, and kind of their families. Also, shout out Mrs. Fig from Harry Potter and Order of the Phoenix, by the way. Potter, I haven't seen her in a film in a while. I like that. R.I.P. Maggie Smith as well.
Oh, yeah,
very sad. I'm assuming you guys mentioned that already, didn't you?
We did not actually. We missed that.
Okay,
it was not.
R.I.P. Maggie Smith, amazing performer. Sad to see her go.
Yeah,
great memories. So the final sequence is. I like films that almost subvert it. So oppose what it said previous in that. Yes, Adam Driver was looking for this view and he was being optimistic about his creation, but it was also just in a world full of like nonsense, really, especially from the perspective of like Shia LaBeouf and Aubrey Plaza and John Voight and whatever. And I like the approach of optimism in a world full of hell and kind of this creation and ending with a child and kind of the long going for their future and what it could come to mean. So I like that approach and I like the way that he took it. The whole like John Voight sequence is it's clear what he's going for, but I don't know if that worked for me or I just thought it was really fucking funny. It's kind of like a difference where admittedly in a lot of this film, a lot of the comedy was intentional, sure, but then there were also moments like that weren't so intentional that I was also laughing at, just because of the audacity of it all. Did you guys see the clip that's going around on Twitter of Adam Driver saying
back to the club?
Yeah. Very, very funny clip, but it's shit like that I didn't like.
I like
it's funny. I think it's funny out of context, but while I was watching the movie, I'm like, what's going on right now? And I think that's just maybe because I wasn't like fully enthralled in the movie in general.
I mean, those scenes where it's like him and Natalie Emanuel in his office, like talking, were kind of like some of my least favorite scenes in terms of like, I just like, that was when like my mind was a little bit like starting to like not be fully as engaged and locked in here because it, and a lot of the dialogue in this movie is like ripped straight from like Shakespeare and philosophers of the past. It's like when they would get into those, it's like interesting way they laced it in, but also it's like, oh, they're about to like talk for 2 minutes about like just like reciting a passage like we all kind of know and have heard. But it was an interesting way to pull it all together. But like the Megalon is such an interesting. It's like unobtainium from the Avatar movies, like this like all being almighty material that can like solve all the world's problems that Adam Driver's trying to build this megalopolis out of it within New Rome. And you have Giancarlo Esposito who's kind of like the mayor who's like the classic like you up and comers have no idea how hard it is to run the city and you know nothing, and Adam Driver's kind of the optimistic like my vision is the way to make the city the best. And then you have Shia LaBeouf who is just kind of like a Nazi,
just a Nazi. He's literally a Nazi who just stands on a swastika at one point.
Yeah, who's literally just like whatever the people want, I'm just gonna say that just so I can get votes and get voted in. But Shia LaBeouf is a crazy man.
There was a lot of Confederate flags, wasn't there? In certain moments,
a lot of Confederate flags. There's a swastika. There's like it's a ton. A lot of like he has his sisters dress up in like a red, white, and blue.
It's like political turmoil, isn't it? It's like the whole thing. We understand the position. I will say, Tyler, off your point, then I did actually like and appreciate the some of the philosophical side of it, like with the Marcus Aurelius quotes. I quite like some of those moments. I think they were actually really, really powerful. Especially the one where the family's there. And what's the one that she says? I can't remember now, but some of those were really, really cool, and I kind of like that. I also expected that coming in as well, so it wasn't like much of a shock to me. Or the dialogue wise, and I think that's definitely the approach we got from the trailers anyway. But I can also see why it put some people off because it's not for everyone. It's the same when you watch like Twixt, for example, Tyler. It's like the way questions are posed and the way the interactions are held is like I expected it coming in, but it's certainly different, I guess,
Mhm.
to the general eye, most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy seeing the trailers with like, the statues like being like humanized and falling. I was like, how are they going to work this into the movie? And it really doesn't. Like, I mean, symbolically,
barely
yes,
in there.
but
Yeah,
in terms of like
one.
the movie, like it really is just like, they're driving through the city and he's just like witnessing, society collapse through these statues. But
Yep.
It was just interesting because when you see it in the trailers, you're like, that's such a crazy visual. How is that going to be worked into the film? And it really is just kind of how it was in the trailers. It's, it's very symbolic, yes, but it's just kind of like, it just happens. And you're like, oh, this is when the statues all come collapsing. But love the visual of like the people warring in the streets, like being projected onto the skyscrapers. That was just an awesome visual. The moon being stolen was also similar to the trailer where it's like, how are they going to work this in the movie? I'm like, oh, it just like happens. And he's like, I had a nightmare where I saw a moon get grabbed. And I was like, the heck's going on right now?
That reminded me, when I saw that, I haven't seen the film. I bet Cam has because he watches this shit. Cam has seen the film.
Despicable Me?
No, it reminded me of We Have a Ghost, the poster. I feel like it looks like We Have a Ghost.
Movie sucks, man.
Yeah, and I just thought of that. I have no idea why.
I hate how that's become my thing. Apparently, is seeing
George has seen it. George has seen it.
It's bad movie. Damn it, Anthony Mackie and David Harbour. What are you guys doing?
I almost wish that some of the moments in the trailer hadn't been there. I know why they are there, but like that one. What I'm talking about. The one Adam Driver shot where it's his face, the buildings and everything, the eye.
Yeah, it's like that was like the most popular shot other than him looking through the like telescope.
I wish I'd have seen that for the first time in the cinema, because even the cinema blew me away. That whole sequence, fucking amazing, loved it.
Is that when he's tripping like crazy? And then like
it's in the third act.
Yeah, it's in that. Yeah.
That moment
they're at the wedding,
insane. I like. Oh, actually, I forgot to mention this. So I wish we had George here, because George is obviously the only one who got to experience the interactive side of it when the aspect ratio changes. Really weird change, actually. Didn't expect it to be like that going in,
and it was so quick. I don't know if it was different in the live version, but I was like, this really didn't seem like something
that was like a 10-second clip. Like
I was like, that was way lamer than they built it up to be.
Well, I think it was the same, to be honest, because I think he only in the interactive one, I think he only asked like one question. He just says what that reporter says, and then Adam Driver like pauses for a while. It was the same thing.
I'm
pretty sure and that's one of those things.
What did you think of it, Seth? I thought it was lame.
I mean, it's I don't know. It's weird because we didn't experience it, I guess, the proper way, and I don't know if my thoughts sort of changed. I didn't really have any thoughts. I was just like, oh.
Well, that's one of those things like where everyone like there was like one tweet that was like, this is filmmaking to another level or something. Like people are freaking out about this like interactive scene, right? And then George replied to it. It was like, this really wasn't like that crazy at all in any way or something like that. And I honestly,
crazier things
before I saw the movie, I was like, I think George might just be hating because he really didn't like the movie, or maybe. But then when you watch it, you're like, oh, that really wasn't anything. Even if someone stood up at the front of the theater, which I almost
more of an annoyance, if anything.
Yeah,
some guy walking on, the lights coming on and shit. Blah.
Yeah, it really wasn't anything. Like
it was just there.
If you're gonna do that, make it a 5-minute scene or something of like a dialogue back and forth. But no, it's just
it was just there.
It's just there. Exactly.
A lot smaller than I expected.
I think.
I was almost wondering because like everyone in my theater was like boomers. I was like, oh god, please don't get up and go like. The screen's shrunk. I was just like, because it kind of went on for like a 2-3 minute scene. I like could almost like feel it from the people around me. Like, oh, someone's gonna be like, is something wrong with the projector?
I don't know if you guys get this. Like the cinema I go to now is quite good because it's a very like filmy cinema. So the people who go are like very film people. But when I used to watch like films that were more not experimental as such, but kind of outside of the traditional blockbusters. I'm trying to think of an example. But like, for example, do you guys get like? I used to feel really awkward when something would happen, and it would be clearly I was with an audience that was, just more general, like people with their kids or like just a general older couple, and not even like something like a sex scene or a violence scene would happen, but just something experimental to the point of like out of the norm. I always used to feel really awkward in those cinemas. Do you know what I mean? And like I would have felt really awkward in Megalopolis if I watched it in like a commercial like cinema. Just because of how much
that's what I was in, because it weirdly got a fully wide release here in America. Where my like local just neighborhood theater. So I was like, I don't need to drive to my like more film based like an hour away theater. So I just went to that, and that's the people were not vibing. Like the sex scene with Aubrey Plaza and Shia LaBeouf, they were not vibing.
I would have felt so awkward during that.
Yeah.
So like mine was fine, but I would have felt so awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I go to local AMC, so not a lot of cinephiles there. I'll be honest, but I assume anyone at the local, anyone at the Megalopolis screening, I assume they're cinephile-esque, or they're just there to crack some beers, man.
It's
and
difficult. Maybe there's no, like.
I wonder. This guy was with someone. I couldn't like tell if it was like a wife, a friend, a guy, a girl. I really couldn't tell who he was with, but I wonder if it was like he just needed an excuse to get out of the house and crack some beers and. It's like, fuck it, let's go see Megalopolis at 6 p.m. I think one of my biggest issues with this movie is it like wants to be so smart and yet it's so on the nose. It's like one of those that like is such a what we'll call a cinephile movie where it's like trying to be as creative as possible, and it is from every sense of the camera work. And the shots that it's doing, the split screens, the fade in and out, like those all work and they look really good. And it looks like almost not a watercolor painting, but like a digital watercolor.
It did sometimes. Almost. Yeah, it was weird. Yeah. The plant sequences and stuff.
Yeah. Crazy. And I think that all works. It feels to me like some people are there for visuals 100%. Like I'm not shocked. Owen loves this movie. He's notoriously, Owen has said no more actors, all visuals, which is my favorite line from him. He's a big visual guy. I get it. You go into this and like this is a beautiful looking movie, but for me it felt like every narrative was there just like kind of put in not last minute, but like he was trying to be so smart with his narrative of like rebirth and a world new that we can make like better in our image, and it can be like the perfect society, but it's all like explained to you right there. Like they're literally saying these things of like where we need a perfect society, and then like we mentioned like the things trying to keep them back, government interference, Nazism, just like people being absolutely insane, and plenty of other things. They're all kind of just like right there. So like the entire time I was like, is this movie trying to be super smart, or is it trying to be like easy for general audiences to go to? And that to me like was a real turn off.
It's difficult because I don't know if Cam, you haven't watched The Substance yet, have you?
No. And
did you watch Triangle of Sadness by any chance?
No, yeah, I've seen Triangle of Sadness. Yeah.
Okay. So we were speaking about this last week. It's like it's hard to tell because I don't know if he was going for something like beneath the surface, because it is very confrontational, and it's like Tyler said, that could be seen as more of a feature. I just think my issue wasn't how surface level it was. I guess it was at points, actually. It's more just how much is there. There's so much going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's not that long a film as well, so it feels like
there's almost so much there that it detracted from some other things I want to see a little more of. And I know like another big point, like that Owen's a big anti-plot guy, like take plots out of movies too. But I like the stuff with like the bank and how that operated. I thought was very interesting. And then the way Megalopolis comes to be really is fast, like because he gets like shot in the face, which he has a kid come up to him and like ask for an autograph, and then
I knew he was going to get shot.
I didn't know that.
I knew he was going to get shot. I'm like, this kid's
I knew he was going to get shot. I didn't know it was going to be the kid though, because
I didn't know it was going to be right then.
Yeah, I was like, this kid's going to do something, and it still got me. I jumped.
Yeah, it was like crazy.
It was like, thank you, nice to meet you, bang, and just
I thought he was going to like trap him, and then the other guys were going to
I thought like the other guys was going to like, because with the whole car being pulled up, like you knew some vibes were off. I just didn't know that. I thought the kid was just there to like buy time or distract him.
It was like,
now you've made him a martyr.
But yeah, so he gets shot in the face, and he uses the Megalon to like repair his face. But then like the final third of the film just unfolds so quickly, where it's like the bank takeover is attempted by Shia LaBeouf and Aubrey Plaza, Wild Platinum, and then that kind of fails, and you have the Robin Hood thing. But then all of a sudden, like Megalopolis is built, and it's like there, and he's giving that speech, kind of the grand opening type thing, and they're trying to go and experience it. I was like, the prospect of like building this world, I guess, was just like so interesting to me, in the way the whole political and economical workings of it were working. Where I think a lot of it was more focused on the love between Natalie Emmanuel and Adam Driver, and how like the love for his dead wife is what kind of fueled the production of Megalon, and a lot of it with like the Nazism and like the unrest in the civil population, and trying to combat that with the rich elites. It's like there's so much there I wanted to say, where kind of like there's some moments of like how the actual movie is unfolding. I was like, I kind of wish I saw where that was going a little more, but it was tied up really quickly.
Yeah. I want to mention my favorite, the part of the movie that I outwardly laughed, and my favorite moment in this movie is at the wedding. I believe it is. They're walking in, and Adam Driver is like this celebrity that the paparazzi's taking pictures of. And I'm going to share my screen, Tyler. I'm 99% sure Adam Driver signs this picture of himself.
I think you're right, and I noticed that too.
It is just a stock Adam Driver image from a red carpet or something, and I'm like, that's just fucking Adam Driver. That's not. They didn't even try to like make it look like.
That's insane that you brought that up, because when I saw that, I was literally like, I feel like
I didn't notice
this is like just like the headshot of Adam Driver, because they
it just signs.
Like, I don't think
outwardly
image of Adam Driver.
It may not be that picture specifically.
I
but
think it might have been that picture.
It might be. So someone who's
The
watching
movie's on F2 movies. After this, you could go and scroll through and see it.
I didn't even notice that. I think
it is so funny. I'm like, he just signed fucking stock image of Adam Driver right there. That made me laugh very hard. That was my favorite moment in the movie, though. I almost give 5-star for that alone.
But back to your point on like
the narration and like the like title cards and stuff. Like, what did you guys think of that moment?
I didn't hate it. I like Lawrence.
I didn't hate it, but I can totally see why the guy behind me hated it, because it does feel a little preachy. It's because it's a movie like this that's so optimistic and so anti the way the world is now, how the world got to the way it is now, and what we need to do with love and optimism for a better future. So I can totally see why it's going to put people off, because it is very preachy, where it's like just reading philosophical quotes or building this fable narrative, especially
from
the final
a privileged standpoint as well.
Yeah, because the final one's like the national anthem or whatever, not the national anthem, Pledge of Allegiance, but like a new version. Yeah. So it's very preachy, and I'm not saying that in a negative way, but I can see why people take it in a negative way. But for me personally, I didn't dislike him. It was fine.
Almost everything in this movie, like for me, like was just fine. I didn't hate the title cards. I didn't hate the narration of it or anything like that. I didn't hate almost anything. It was all just kind of there in my opinion.
That's for me, it's like the opposite, where it's like I either loved it or was like, I don't like this at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like there were moments where I was like, I just
don't
care.
I know myself. I know my like opinion on movie after seeing, like, I was texting George about it after he went and saw the screening, because like him and I align on a couple of movies. And so like I kind of figured I'd hate this thing. I went into it, I was watching, I'm like, I really don't like despise any of this. Like it's not my favorite by any means. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it was like a pleasant surprise almost.
I think you're the only person I follow who give it like a 2.5, I think.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's just surprising, because I've got like people who give it 5, then I've got 1s. Like my friend's rating. My friend's rating currently is Tyler, it's gone down to 2.5 now, by the way, the average rating. So my friend's rating is a 3.3, but the graph is crazy. And there's only there's 3 2.5s, there's only 1 3, but there's like 3 1s and 7 5s. It's the weirdest thing ever. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
Yeah, so it's just such a hard experience to rate, because it is so unique and unlike.
I almost didn't rate it, like, because I was just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I just hate not rating movies. It just annoys me personally, but I can see why you would on something like this, because like it's tough, and it's like the narrative was good, not great. A lot of stuff in it didn't care for. A lot of stuff in it really loved. Everything visually, absolutely loved. Sound design was great. I thought the acting, personally, I know some people are iffy on it. I loved it. So there's a lot more I loved than I didn't like. So then realistically, there's probably like, 3.5-ish type film, but then like a 4-star, and even like I was almost 4.5 star, which is from the fact that this felt so unique, felt like such a swing. So much was packed in here to a fault, but also just to like an admirable degree. That it just ultimately became something that I loved. And like Cam, when we talk about Wolves later, I think my Wolves review is lower purely because of Megalopolis, because now I'm just comparing
my Wolves review is higher because of Megalopolis.
Really, it's just like I just like admired a swing so much, and the visual ideas in this movie. Just craziness. Yeah. But I don't really know if I personally have more to touch on here. Just a movie that I definitely do want to see again. I don't know if I'm going to go out to the theater again and see it, but I'll be really interested to see how this plays. 9 months from now or so, when it's on VOD. Well, I mean, nowadays,
I think
a month when it's on VOD, but
I think the biggest takeaway for me is this movie's just going to leave zero impact on the world, which like kind of sucks in the sense that
Yeah.
Francis Ford Coppola is like one of the biggest directors of all time. Again, shit person, whatever you want to say about him, you can't deny. Like he's made some really great movies, and if you mention Francis Ford Coppola even today, like everyone in the room knows him as the Godfather director. Apocalypse Now, should be known for Bram Stoker's Dracula. More
was it intentional that time, or was that another?
That was intentional.
Okay.
That was intentional.
I agree, Cam. He should be no more.
He should be, because that movie's cool, man. But like, it's a bummer that his final movie. No way he's making another. Right? That dude's.
I think he's like what 88, maybe 89.
I honestly think this movie will most be known for its absurd AI trailer that it had. And just, I think that's
probably good for it, if anything.
Yeah, maybe. I just think that's like what the takeaway from this movie will be, and like that's what I think of when I think of this movie. Almost is, and it's like I said, unfortunately, it's going to make $3.50 at the box office.
This isn't new. This isn't something new. I know it's a lifetime creation, but Francis Ford Coppola hasn't had a successful film in a long time. You know what I mean? So it's like. It's not necessarily.
I mean, he's an old timey director. Like he's not making popcorn movies, which
he's making passion projects. That's like the whole point. He's making things that he wants to make and stories he wants to tell.
I'm a firm believer. Just because you're passionate about it doesn't make it good, though. And I think for me that's where this kind of falls. Unfortunately,
I guess I always would prefer that directors do something that they like. They don't care about what others like. Because it's just like, if you don't take risks, it's just kind of boring.
Yeah. I mean, we'll hear my thoughts on Wolves, the sauceless movie of the year. That's just as good as this.
But yeah, I don't think this movie's going to leave much of an impact. Just in terms of like, I see people like, I've seen multiple reviews now be like very positive review. And like, they're basically like their whole review is talking about like how like, oh, in 30 years from now, everyone will realize it's a masterpiece. You don't need to do that. Like if you like the movie, you can like the movie, but don't try and like be ahead of the times and like rate a movie high because like, oh, there's gonna be reappraised one day and I'll be ahead.
It will always be something that people will love or hate, like his other films.
Like it's not gonna be The Godfather where it'll be like reclaimed as like a masterpiece. And I mean, even The Godfather got like 10 Oscar nominations. So like I know people say like critically it's been reclaimed over the years, but like let's not act like it was nominated for 10 Oscars. People, it was not a movie that the world hated when it came out. It was still very widely praised. But yeah, anything else, Seth, you want to touch on for Megalopolis?
No, it's all good. I'm actually running for time, so
all right.
I need to get off. So you two have a nice wolf, whatever that means, and I'll see you soon. See you later, guys.
Peace out. Well, George was the lowest on Megalopolis, and unfortunately, he cannot be here to tell us his thoughts. But actually, we got a whole surprise.
This is incredible. Wait, I can't hear it. Can you
hear it now?
No. Can you?
Yeah.
Do you have to share audio?
Yeah, probably.
This is awesome. Did he record this?
Yeah.
He's loving this new mic. Like he's making this thing his entire personality.
Oh, I wanted this to be so much smoother. It's so sad. I'll figure it out. But
good try though.
Where's I run into this at work sometimes where like you have to like share audio when you're sharing screen, but let me see. Let's try this again.
I think you can try to play it even if I can't hear it. Maybe like the recording can. So like I'd say you play it, and if it doesn't happen,
I see. No, we're good. It should work now.
Let's discuss Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis for a hot sec. Unfortunately, I couldn't be here to join this episode of the ReelTok Podcast, and I miss you boys. But New York Film Festival is getting in my way, and I do have a couple of screenings this weekend. But I really didn't want to miss the Megalopolis episode, so let me give you my quick thoughts. I'm going to keep it spoiler-free on my end. I'm sure Seth, Tyler, and Cameron will go into spoilers. Maybe next week when I join, I will give some of my spoiler thoughts. But for now, spoiler-free thoughts on Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis. It was so tough to not be excited for this movie. This is Francis Ford Coppola. This is The Godfather. This is The Godfather Part 2. This is The Conversation. This is Apocalypse Now. This is Bram Stoker's Dracula. One of the greatest living filmmakers, one of the greatest filmmakers ever, period. And Megalopolis was 40 years in the making. You hear that Francis Ford Coppola has been writing this thing since the days of The Godfather. production delays. And there was so much that held him back from making this movie, but he finally got the opportunity. He sold his vineyard, $120 million, a passion project of his. Let me start by saying this. I gave this movie a 1.5 stars. This is probably the only 1.5 star movie I will ever give where I don't necessarily want to sit here and excessively shit on this movie, because it is a movie I want to rewatch, and I want to rewatch it pretty badly. And I'll probably rewatch it next Tuesday or Wednesday when I don't have a film festival screening, because now I know what I'm getting myself into. Now I understand Francis's vision. I understand his storytelling. So I want to go into this movie on rewatch with just a completely new perspective. But as it stands, this movie did not necessarily land for me personally. I think visually, there are moments that are brilliant. Genuinely, moments that are just fucking phenomenal. Moments that make me look at my 1.5 star rating and think, George, you are stupid. But I've used these two words before: suffocating and overwhelming. And I'm going to stick with those two words because I think those two words genuinely describe my experience with this movie. I was getting antsy in that theater. I was shaking. I was adjusting. I was sitting on my hands. I wanted that movie to end so badly because of how much Francis was just throwing in my direction. This is 40 years worth of technical filmmaking evolution. This is 40 years worth of themes and ideas packed into a 2 hour and 20 minute runtime. And I'll use the words again. It is overwhelming. It is so much. But what I will say, there are people out there that don't care about storytelling. They're more of the visuals, the image. And if that's your way of engaging with film, you're going to love this movie. I promise you. You are going to adore this movie because, like I said, there were visually things in this movie that blew me away. But my biggest takeaway was the narrative, was the writing, was the character work. I never felt the weight of that core rivalry between Caesar and Cicero. I never felt the weight of that core romance. The politics, considering this is 40 years worth of ideas, I don't want to say they felt shallow, but they felt a bit elementary. I just never felt the gravity of the situation. I never felt a sense of urgency in, Caesar building this utopia or even just trying to get it built while Cicero was basically at him, holding him back. The film, and again, it's weird I'm praising this movie considering my 1.5. And the more I talk about it, the more I want to raise my rating slightly, but I will wait for a rewatch to do that. But the film really does feel like such a moment in filmmaking history. We're never going to see a film like this again, whether you like this movie or dislike this movie, whether you gave it a 5 stars, which I'm seeing a lot of people do, or whether you give it a 0.5 star, which I am also seeing a lot of people do. There is just, it's one of a kind. It's one of one. We're not going to see something like this for a while. So Seth, Tyler, and Cam, I'll let you guys take over with your spoiler thoughts. But Megalopolis, as it stands, it was mostly a miss for me. I would say a majority of it was a miss for me. But again, oddly enough, I'm excited. I'm excited to rewatch this movie and go into it with a new perspective. I really hope that helps, and I really hope I could elevate this score slightly. With that said, even though I rate this poorly, Adam Driver, I think, is great. Giancarlo Esposito, I think, is great. Nathalie Emmanuel, sorry, I think I pronounced her name wrong, was great. Aubrey Plaza was great. Shia LaBeouf was great. Jason Schwartzman, Grace Vanderwall, Lawrence Fishburne. I think everyone involved in the production was fantastic. I, at this very moment, just wish they had better writing to work with. Megalopolis, right now, 1.5 stars. Not that great of a movie, in my opinion. Not an experience I really enjoyed. Suffocating and overwhelming. I'll use those words to describe this movie a ton, but I'm going to see it again. I'm going to see it again this week, and hopefully I don't regret that decision.
That was amazing. I loved that.
Yeah, so thank you, George Carmi, for joining and giving your thoughts on Megalopolis.
It's awesome.
but we'll end our Megalopolis talk there. And we will get into the rest of our episode, and we'll start with the Wild Robot. Cam, what were your thoughts? You're the only one who saw it. I will quickly pull up a synopsis. So, discover your true nature. After a shipwreck, an intelligent robot called Roz is stranded on an uninhabited island. To survive the harsh environment, Roz bonds with the island's animals and cares for an orphan baby goose. A lot of hype coming into this one. When the trailer dropped, took a lot of people by surprise with how crazy the animation looked and looked gorgeous. Average rating on Letterboxd of 4.2, but if you look at the graph, it's crazy. It's like 5 is the highest, most likely review of this. So very highly regarded film based on a series of books, I do believe. Cam, what your thoughts on the Wild Robot?
I was a little bummed with the Wild Robot in the sense that like I still rated it positively. I gave it a 70 out of 100. I enjoyed it a lot. I was just a little bummed. I've spoke on it time and time again on this podcast and time again in life. I love animation. I'm a shill for it. I really wanted to love it. It's a lot of messages about being a parent and seeing your kid grow up, and how do you let them be their own person, but still kind of keep an eye on them. And so I thought I'd kind of love it. It wasn't 100% there for me. I didn't love the character. I never felt super emotionally attached to the characters. There are some emotional moments that because of that didn't hit entirely for me. I think it looks beautiful, as most animation movies these days do. It's pretty hard to do animation poorly. There are some great moments where the robot exudes different colors from it, and marking its emotion. There's moments where the robot has moss on it, and you can see the texture of it, and you can see the texture of the environment, and it looks really good. And I think that's why I still enjoy it a lot. And it's by no means poorly written, no means a bad narrative. It's simple. Obviously, it's a children's animated movie. It's right there. It's easy to watch. It's not long. It's an hour and a half. So that's kind of the general review of it. I just don't think it impacted me as much as I would have hoped, especially after seeing some reviews. I've got a couple friends that gave it a 5-star, got some that are 4.5, some 4, 3.5, but no one really down on this movie by any means. And I don't think there's really any reason to be down on this movie. It's a really hopeful watch. I am terrified of Bailey going to school and getting bullied. And I know just kids are kids. I've been bullied, probably bullied. So not proud of it, but every kid is a kid. Right. And so I'm terrified of it. And there's a scene in this where the little duck's getting bullied, and it just, I think if I were to resonate with this a little bit more and just being a father, that shit would have made me cry, I would have thought, but it wasn't completely there yet. I liked the characters fine. Roz the robot was played by Lupita Nyong'o. I think she did a really good job. Pedro Pascal is in this kind of as a Fox, which he's totally. I think everyone's in this is totally fine. I liked Lupita Nyong'o. I think she's probably the best voice acting, but no one made me be yeah, that's really good delivery of that line or whatever. Kit Connor, who I believe is from, what is he in? He's in Ready Player One, Rocket Man, good movies, a couple other things, but I think he was totally fine. He plays a duck, so it's not or a baby goose, sorry. So it's not he's, winning Oscars for this performance or anything, but he's fine. I like Emma loves geese. She loves a Canadian geese because she thinks they're mean for just to be mean, and she kind of enjoys that energy from them because she's they don't really owe anyone anything. They don't have to be nice to you. They're geese. What do they gain from being nice? And I think it's funny that in this movie, geese are mean, and they are, man. You walk up to a geese, those things are ready to throw hands, and I like that in this movie. All the geese are just kind of assholes. But yeah, so that made me laugh. But other than that, not a whole lot to say. I'm not going to go super into the Wild Robot, I'll be honest, but I genuinely think if you're a fan of these animated movies in any kind, you should go watch this and enjoy it. I don't think it's anything you'll be upset you've seen. Show your kid. They'll probably enjoy it if you have them. If you need a light watch for an hour and a half, go watch this thing. It's easy breezy cover girl to get through. It's a good one. But I was a little disappointed I didn't like adore it. But I still had a good time with it and did enjoy it. I just didn't. It's not like a favorite animated movie by any means. But still very good.
Well, there you have it. Well, I do believe it is a series of books. So I don't know. I haven't seen the box office numbers yet, but if this does very well, I mean, critically, it's doing pretty well. So maybe it'll become a new animated franchise. We'll have to see. But that's our review of The Wild Robot. I was going to go see it, but ultimately, just being sick, I was like, I'm already going to see Megalopolis. Just wasn't going to push it. But I did manage to see Wolves because that was an at-home movie, which weird because like this is a rug pull, like just like honestly like a week or maybe 2 weeks ago, where like this was supposed to get a week in theaters, and then like either that was last weekend and then this weekend was supposed to be streaming, but then they like scrapped that and just said like we're just doing only streaming release. Maybe it was based on the can't remember which film festival it was. Maybe it was like Toronto or Venice where this premiered, where like it got like a 5-minute standing ovation, which is like the sign of death, and it was just like rough
shit, man.
But Wolves, directed by John Watts, obviously everyone knows him from the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy. Reuniting Brad Pitt and George Clooney for, let's just guess off the top of my head, sixth time.
I think it's like 8. I looked it up. It's also, here's trivia for you, Tyler. It's not the first one of the year. What other movie were they in together this year?
Oh, I should be able to get this one. So, I mean,
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 movies together.
So 2024, they were both in a movie together?
Yep.
Brad Pitt, George Clooney.
Once you hear it, you'll be like, okay, that makes sense.
Is it voice acting stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's if.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So like, yeah, voice acting makes sense. Like they could just show up there and probably not. But I didn't realize they were like that big of dogs. I obviously knew the Ocean's movies. I knew Burn After Reading. And then I thought this was kind of it. And then I'm looking it up and If is on that list. I'm like, what the fuck? And then a movie called The Touch of Evil, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, and 8 are movies I have not seen. But yeah, 8 movies in the Brad Pitt and Clooney universe.
Crazy. Well, the synopsis here, they're not partners. They're not friends. They're wolves hired to cover up a high-profile crime. A fixer soon finds his night spiraling out of control when he's forced to work with an unexpected counterpart. First comment before we get into the movie, is the plural of 2 lone wolves not just wolves? Like, does it I don't know. This title bothers me from me. Wolves, just like, it's just not easy to say for me. Wolves is a plural of wolf. I don't know why it's wolves in this case, but anyways, that aside, Cam, what were your thoughts on Mr. John Watts's non-MCU film Wolves?
Yeah, I didn't know this was John Watts. It's not a shocking revelation by any means. I think it's a totally fine movie. I know you really disliked it. I think this is a movie my dad and my parents would enjoy. They like Clooney, they like Brad Pitt. I think they'd enjoy. I think both of them work fine together. This for me is like almost the opposite of Megalopolis. It's got no sauce, but it's got a cohesive story that I can sit through. It's not very long. It's like an hour and 45 minutes, I think. It's kind of a breeze. I don't know if it's breeze, actually. It's a little boring here and there for sure. Because it's really just this movie had to cost $3.50 to make. I feel like I've thrown out $3.50 a lot today. This movie had to have cost very little because it's really just Clooney and Brad Pitt in a room hanging out together and just yapping back and forth. And they have good chemistry. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, get out of here, because these two are the best buds of Hollywood, apparently. But yeah, it's like I said, it's really just them hanging out and yapping, and there's a crime that's being committed, but it's like that's like barely part of the movie, I feel like. Otherwise they just bring that. So the general idea of this movie is that a kid is a woman takes a kid up to her room and he dies. I'm gonna kind of spoil this, but I don't know if it's spoiler. I'll let you give your thoughts first, and then we'll go into it. Tyler, you didn't like it.
Yeah, Cam was absolutely right. It's the complete opposite of Megalopolis, and watching this right after it was just not doing anyone any favors because Megalopolis was such a swing in every sense of the word, and a lot of it worked, a lot of it didn't work, and Wolf's was just no swing was taken here. It was a very just predictable narrative that I got so bored of about halfway through. Like, just I thought the movie was so boring. Visually, this movie was so dull and ugly. Like, the snow looked nice, sure. Maybe that's a John Watts special because I think he put snow in the Spider-Man movies
at the end of No Way Home. There's
snow. Just like John Watts, big snow guy.
Big snow guy. Where's your problem? Let's look at that up.
Yeah, it's just visually. There's nothing here visually. George Clooney and Brad Pitt. The thing is, they both phoned it in here, but the thing is, I think they're both such great talents that like them phoning it in, it's still like fine performances. Like, I didn't think they were bad, but it's just there was never like a scene or a moment where I was like, oh yeah, this is George Clooney, this is Brad Pitt. It's more frustrating for me because John Watts has obviously just been in the MCU with the Spider-Man movies, and outside of that's really done nothing. So like this is his shot. Like now that he's done with the MCU. Or might come back, but it's still like, he's getting a big budget opportunity to make a movie outside the MCU to kind of like give his full vision towards. Somehow he's been able to score George Clooney and Brad Pitt, two like all-time greats. And it just felt like this is such a safe, like bland movie that it just felt like, and I think that's just what was so offensive to me. Like watching right after Megalopolis, like this is just such an opposite of a director, like letting it all hang out there with the great talent at his hands, and more so just like, let's just feed Apple TV Plus something that every dad will turn on. Like, I think you said that in your review, like dads will love this, or someone said that, but it's like, Brad Pitt, George Clooney, little like crime thriller movie. Hell yeah, let's watch it. But I was so bored by this, both visually, but also
this thing's got a $200 million budget.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yep, exactly. That's just why it's such an offensive movie.
How much went to Brad Pitt and George Clooney just to be there? Like
for John Watts' sake, I hope 190 million, because I hope he's able to lean back on like I only had 10 million, because like there's nothing like special effects wise or like big shootout blow up scenes that like would make you think, like,
dude,
they need money.
The first 30 minutes of this movie, they spend way longer in that hotel room.
Way too long.
And then they spend a ton of time in a bar, and then they go to a wedding, which there's like a bunch of extras, but you got to
a diner.
A diner, like they are not in like big settings. Like, did they have to rent out the hotel? Like, we need every room.
Is the snow really just fake gold dust or something?
That's insane that this thing's $200 million, man. This is more of a like where'd the money go than any like MCU show that's like 400 million.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah. Low key, John Watts, goated money launderer?
He might be. That's
might be the guy to call in. He might be the wolf to call in if you need to launder some money. But we're gonna go into spoilers now. Again, like this is a movie that I personally wouldn't really recommend. So like I don't think it's the end of the world if you listen to spoilers. But if you really don't want to be spoiled for wolves, go watch it on Apple TV Plus. And come back to this, but
48 out of 100, better than Megalopolis.
Yeah, 1 star for me, which I don't know. It's like I hated it so much that like there's no other option than a 0.5 star. But like I just felt like I was being too biased.
I had the opposite feeling where after Megalopolis, this just felt like a normal movie. Like I was like, all right, that's fine. Yeah. That's
which I think like just speaks to our differences. Which I'm not saying that at all in a positive, negative connotation whatsoever. I'm just saying like just people look for different things when they go to a movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I cut you off with my thoughts. If you had a spoiler you wanted to
like the entire movie is like an older woman, Holly Flax, takes
Amy Ryan, for those who don't know The Office.
Yeah. I didn't. I
was Afraid Part 2 of the movie person. If you also don't know,
crazy. Good for her in her Renaissance era. But yeah, so she takes a young kid up to her room. He's high on something. He falls off the bed and like falls through a glass table, and they think he's dead. So these two people, I'm confused. Like, so she calls George Clooney. Apparently there's a camera in the room watching that. Like this happens frequently too. So like Brad Pitt comes in, and he's like the other like wolf, we'll call it, or a guy that takes care of these kind of things. First off, if you have a camera in a room, George Clooney's there, so you don't need this second wolf. Like, and I'm confused on how often this is happening. I might talk myself down on this movie, but then Yeah, so then they clean up this mess. They find a bunch of drugs. It becomes like this big drug deal movie. The kid's actually alive, apparently, because he's taken this magical drug that they make fun of in the movie that like slows your heart rate to such a slow rate or something, that you wouldn't be able to tell he's alive. And they clean it up. He's alive. They go to a house or a place to, I think, heal him a little bit, or I forget what the girl does. I can't remember, man. Then they go to a wedding.
I'm still here, by the way. I just have to turn my camera for a second. I have to like blow my nose, but
you're fine.
Keep going.
Yeah, you're fine. And so it unravels to this like drug heist mystery of this kid was supposed to just deliver drugs because his friend who's a drug dealer's mom died that day or something, and he didn't know he was a drug dealer, and he was like, I'll do anything to help you out, man. Your mom died. And he actually has a pretty funny scene where he's explaining this, in my opinion. Like, the kid is a relatively good actor. I gotta go figure out who it's played by now. It's played by Austin Abrams, who I haven't really seen in anything. I guess he was he was Do Revenge. He was the asshole in Do Revenge. But he wasn't. Yeah, that's not a good movie. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark's okay. But yeah, so he's a pretty funny kid. They go to a wedding where apparently George Clooney and Brad Pitt know the like mob boss dad at this wedding. And it just unfolds, and then like, yeah, then they're like, oh, we're not partners. And he's like, are you guys sure you're not partners? And then, yeah, it's just a really stupid movie. I don't know. I think it's a totally fine watch. And again, a lot of it is just Brad Pitt and George Clooney, and they're bantering back and forth. Like they're like Tyler said, they're in a diner, they're in a bar, they're in in the hotel room for a while. And it's fine. It's fine. If you want to see them banter back and forth, I think it works. But if you want anything visually stunning, you're not going to get it here. John Watts is from Boulder, Colorado, I believe, or somewhere in Colorado.
Hollyflax connection.
Exactly. Hollyflax connection. Good pull. So he's a big snow guy, it seems. I don't have much more to say other than that it's a totally fine watch, in my opinion.
Did you see on the cast who voiced Pam?
I really didn't.
Another excuse of where money might have went.
Francis McDormand. What?
Francis McDormand's the voice of the person you never see, the mysterious like crime boss lady like helping set up these fixtures.
Oh my God, I did not know that. That's insane. Why? Francis McDormand is the most insane, like, let's get a bag person here and there. Like, she'll be in some amazing movies, and then she's the voice actor in this, or she's in Dark of the Moon, or she's in The Good Dinosaur. She's in Madagascar 3, not even 1 or 2. So she's signed on to this. Yeah, she has signed on to this franchise of Madagascar just to get a bag. Good for her.
Yeah, just crazy when I saw that in the cast. Like, no way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like this movie is quick, but still felt so long because they're in so many settings and scenes way longer than they need.
Way longer than they need to be. Way longer.
Yeah. And it's just such a weird movie because like the fact that it is George Clooney, Brad Pitt, and it's like John Watts outside the MCU, like I didn't expect it to be this predictable. Like it's like the most obvious plot. Like I feel like we've seen a million times where it's like guy who's dead, go clean up the crime. Uh-oh, not actually dead. Now we got a problem on our hands. Like that just seems like so many TV shows, so many movies have done that before. The kid, he's from the American Vandal TV series, which I really love. So shout out to him from that. I haven't seen him since. But I thought he was great in that. But yeah, it's just weird because like Amy Ryan's like some high profile person. So like, and it seems like this hotel room they go to might have the camera because like this is where all the whole high profile elites go. And anytime they get up at any problem, they're like, oh God, we got to call in the fixer to come clean up their mess. And yeah, it was just, it was literally like the first, like, I'm not even exaggerating, probably the first 35 minutes of this movie, we're just in that hotel room, just trying to figure out where they're going to go next. And then there's scenes of them driving in a car together where minutes go by without any dialogue. And it's like showing the blinker of the car and showing like, and I'm like, man, this is dragging out here. And I don't know, just a weird movie of just how much of a bore it was. I was so surprised how boring it was.
Yeah, and let me make known that both George Clooney and Brad Pitt are very good-looking men. Don't get me wrong, like attractive dudes. This entire movie, or not entire movie, but a lot of this movie is based on the fact that like George Clooney is the old gun. He's doing it one way. Brad Pitt is the young guy, like who like George Clooney's like, you don't know what you're doing. I'm the professional. He actually like hangs up the body when he thinks the kid is dead, in a pretty like awesome way. Like gets him on a hotel cart, like just by like
it was a smooth move.
Around.
I can't lie. I had no clue what he was trying to attempt. I was like, okay, this is kind of lit.
Yeah, no, very smooth move. But that's like his like because Brad Pitt was like giving him shit that he's not going to be able to like get him out of the hotel or something. And like yeah. George Clooney, though, moral of what I'm trying to say is George Clooney's 63 and Brad Pitt's 60. Like they're not that far apart. There's no reason for George Clooney to be the old guy and Brad Pitt to be the young gun, other than like, yeah, Brad Pitt looks younger, and but again, they're both good-looking 60-year-olds, man. So it's just odd that this is like the narrative that they've decided to portray. I don't know. It's wholeheartedly, this entire movie is in my opinion a half-assed, like based on like let's get George Clooney and Brad Pitt in a movie together for our Apple TV Plus movie to drive viewers. It's just made for that reason to get subscribers.
It's a movie that takes zero swings, and I'm not necessarily saying that's a negative thing. Like some people are just looking for that kind of movie. Like this is an all-time laundry folding movie, cleaning up around organizing your office or hanging up clothes type of movie. Like this is you do not need your full attention here because visually there's nothing you're really going to miss. Like this is mostly dialogue is what you're here for. So yeah, I swings are taken here. Kind of boring, but it's a good multitasking movie, which, a lot of streaming services are looking for these days.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is, like I mentioned, like if you show your friends Megalopolis in college, they'll beat you with sticks. If you show them Wolves in college, they'll think, yeah, that was a good way to pregame for this bar that we're about to go to. Like
a lot of literally me's would be flown around.
Yeah, like oh yeah, I could fucking do that. That's awesome.
I need a leather jacket. I'm gonna go on a Sheen right now and get one.
Yeah, exactly. Like so, you'll get like people are gonna enjoy this movie. It has a 3.1, 3.1 on Letterboxd. Not a ton, but like everyone's just kind of sitting at the 3.5 range. 57% of people are in the 3.5 range. So yeah, it's just kind of a movie you watch and you move on with your life, I think.
Yeah, I mean the movies aren't similar at all, but it felt like Roadhouse to me in terms of like that's where this movie exists, in the Roadhouse sphere of like throw it on, you'll forget about it, but whatever, it's fine. Good actors, given okay performances.
Yeah.
But Cam, did you watch the Thunderbolts trailer?
Oh, of course I did. Yeah,
I thought you would. So I got to run for 2 minutes. Tell us about the Thunderbolts trailer. I'll be back in like 120 seconds.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, Thunderbolts. I'm really excited for. I think there's. Okay, I guess I don't know. Someone commented last week saying like I'm like forcing negative into my my Marvel like takes these days. Like I'm normally pretty high on Marvel, and I still am. I'm gonna go watch everything. I'm gonna see everything. I'm not trying to be negative on these things. I just think like what they're making right now is not amazing. But Thunderbolts trailer, really good. I made note of it. Like even if the movie itself is bad, like they really know how to craft a trailer. And I think they do a really good job here. And I like the cast, obviously, like Florence Pugh is fantastic. Sebastian Stan is great. I'm excited to see David Harbour again because I think he's funny. But then you have like Ghost, you have Taskmaster, who just kind of they're nothing characters for me. I'm sorry. Like they try to make them both tragic characters where like Taskmaster's dad is the controlling her, and Ghost's got trapped in the quantum zone and never wanted to be there. Or I can't remember her timeline specifically. But they're just characters. I honestly, I really just don't care about a whole lot. And then you have Lewis Pullman as Sentry. Everyone's like really excited for him. Yeah, sure. Like that's exciting. It's kind of frustrating. Like, I don't know what they're going for because they're calling him Bob, but almost everyone who looks into these movies like knows he's Sentry. So I don't know the marketing strategy of movies and TV. I don't. So I don't know. I'm sure 90% of the world doesn't know Bob, or 90% of the people that go and see this don't know Bob's going to be Sentry. 10% are going to know Bob's going to be Sentry. I'm a part of the 10%. And so it's one of those things that I'm like, why are we being so mysterious about this thing that everyone knows? And like, I think Twitter's a part of that 10%, but maybe you're listening to this and you're thinking, I had no clue who the hell Sentry is. And I myself, who doesn't read comics, I don't necessarily know who Sentry is a ton, but I look him up, and he's like this Superman character who has like this dark side that he can't necessarily control. But they do, like, they tease the Sentry belt. So it's pretty obvious he's going to be like that character, right? So I think it's just kind of odd that they're playing it so close to the chest. Even though like they did it for like Mysterio, and I really love Spider-Man Far From Home. So maybe they're just going that route, but it's one of those things, like, comic books. I feel like you should not try to make, and it's going on with Agatha right now, of like, who's Aubrey Plaza, who's I forget his name, Joe Locke. Like, who are they playing? But like, I think it's pretty obvious it's Billy, Wanda's kid, and then it appears that Aubrey Plaza's death. So there are things you can find out, especially when they have to get toys out, and they're gonna spoil their own movie because they're gonna put toys in Walmart 2 weeks prior to the movie actually coming out. Because that's really, if you don't know, toys are what make the money in the movie industry, especially in like the Marvel and DC universes. Like, toys are the biggest pull to these movies, or not biggest pull, but like biggest money maker. So that's why like Sony has all the distribution rights to the Spider-Man character, but their deal includes that Disney gets all the money and revenue from the toys that they make, because that's all Disney gives a shit about, is making the money. So Sony's going to market it and send it out however they do. And it's going to be part of the MCU, which is going to make Sony more money. But as long as Disney gets to keep the toys rights, they're pretty happy with the Sony. So you're going to spoil your own movie 2 weeks before. So I wish these shows and movies didn't try to like lean so hard on the big reveal of Bob being Sentry, when it's just not going to be. I think most people who really care and really are intrigued by it already know that, but the trailer looks good, and there's a lot of like cool action in it. I think they're really trying to go for that Winter Soldier-esque feel. Shout out, what's her name from fucking Seinfeld? Julie Louis-Dreyfus. Shout out her. She's awesome in everything. So I'm excited to see her again as Valentina, because I think she does a good job again in everything. But I just don't think the appeal of like this team, like, I saw a tweet. It's 3 Captain Americas, and then faceless assassin, like, or faceful assassin if you're talking Yelena. But it's like fake Captain America of U.S. Agent, the David Harbour one, and Bucky Barnes are all fake Captain America. And then you have faceless assassin of Ghost, you have faceless assassin of Taskmaster, and then you have Florence Pugh. Is basically the entire team, and that's really all they're going after. But I'm excited for it. I'm going to go see it. I think the trailer genuinely was really good. Like, Marvel knows how to craft a trailer. And like I said, the fight scene when they're all in that area that they get called to, seeing Ghost fight is cool, and seeing Taskmaster fight is cool. But I don't know. I think their costumes look bad. And I hope they get maybe an upgraded suit during this, because I really don't like the look of anyone's costumes in this, but maybe they're good. We'll see. And it seems like Valentina may have bought the Avengers Tower. That's what everyone's excited about, which I don't know. I would have rather had it be like the Baxter Building for Fantastic Four, but we'll see. Yeah. So that's where
I like the trailer. I'm excited for it. Weirdly enough, it was enough to get my attention.
Good trailer. It's a good trailer.
Yeah, it's a good trailer. May 2nd, 2025 releases. Do we know yet what the asterisk is all about? Are they gonna have a different name or something?
I think the big thing is like they're. I think I've seen a ton of theories, and now I can't remember any of them. But I think it's pulling the rug that they may be like the Dark Avengers rather than the Thunderbolts. Because rest in peace, William Hurt. Who plays Thunderbolt Ross, but they're getting Oh, help me out. Han Solo. Harrison Ford.
Ford.
Yeah, is now playing Thunderbolt Ross in Captain America: Brave New World, or New World Order. Brave New World. Which one is it?
New World Order.
See, look at me.
I think it has been both.
Yeah, look at me. I am like so cooked in my Marvel brain. I can't even remember anything anymore. But yeah, I'm excited for it. And I think it looks good. I just don't necessarily care about any of these characters other than Yelena because she's Florence Pugh and Bucky because it's Sebastian Stan. Like those are the reasons I care about those characters, not because of like the characters they are on screen, really.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited. We'll see.
Yep, for sure. We also got the first trailer for Ryan Coogler's Sinners, going to be released in theaters March 7th, 2025. Ryan Coogler, first original movie in a while, because I mean he had Fruitvale Station, which got him kind of on the map with some critical acclaim, and then he went right into 3 Creed movies and 2 Black Panther. Did he? No, did he only?
He
do
did
one
both Black Panthers. He only did one Creed.
Only did one. I thought he did 2 Creeds, and then Michael B. Jordan took over the third.
Stephen Cable Jr. did this.
Oh yeah, I think that is right. There's a classic like every
Creed is a different director. Yeah,
but still, I mean, still they're existing within franchises and existing IP. So like he's back to like an original story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Fruitvale Station is based on real events, but I mean, this is a vampire movie. Michael B. Jordan, which has every movie he's directed had Michael B. Jordan in it then too. I mean, if Creed and Black Panther and Fruitvale Station, like maybe he has some before then, but
technically, I don't think. Well, maybe I can't remember Wakanda Forever all that well, but I don't think Michael B. Jordan's in that one.
No, yeah, he has a. Remember, he comes around the throne in like a dream sequence. People are like, is that going to be right?
Yeah,
is that going to be? Everyone held their breath. Or I held my breath. I'm like, please don't be Chadwick Boseman. I will throw a
CGI chatter.
Yeah, I was terrified when they were starting to slowly go around that chair. But yeah, so Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler are boys, and this movie looks awesome trailer. Michael B. Jordan he is such a movie star, and he's shown it in full force. Just jacked biceps with the machine gun firing, like that is classic movie star 101, classic action movie star 101. Can't wait for this. Very excited. Looks awesome.
So cool, man. Michael B. Jordan with a Tommy gun, just jacked out of his mind. Awesome. Haley Steinfeld looks awesome in this. I think Delroy Lindo's in this. I haven't looked at the cast entirely, but just so many hell yeahs during this trailer, man. I am absolutely stoked for this thing. I think it looks amazing.
Definitely on my early watch list of like, potential top 3, top 5 movie of 2025 watch list already. Because
I've said it before. Ryan Coogler, one of the best working directors today. I'm so
for sure. Ryan Coogler is the GOAT. Cam cut out a little bit, but perfect time anyways, because we're moving on to the next trailer.
And if he does, I didn't realize I cut out. That's a bummer. I don't think there's any way he misses. If he does, I might cry. That's what I said.
Yeah, no, he won't miss. Don't worry. We got the first trailer for the John Wick spinoff movie Ballerina, releasing June 6, 2025. And I hope it's not the final title, but the title right now is From the World of John Wick, Ballerina, which is like, I thought Furiosa Mad Max story was bad. If this is actual title, this is without a doubt the worst movie title of all time in terms of
atrocious.
And yeah, it's like I tweeted, which like I love Twitter because you can just like throw out a thought that even if you don't even believe it, or it's just a random like musing idea, you just throw it out there. Like Saoirse Ronan wanted to be a Bond villain. I'm like, just make her James Bond, which is like something I didn't put an ounce of thought into, and then everyone got mad, obviously. And then some people were like, oh, I want original female icons as opposed to just like taking male ones and turning them around, which again, agreed, same here. But when we see stuff like Furiosa being a Mad Max saga, and we see Ballerina being from the world of John Wick, we can kind of see that studios just don't trust the ability to have like a woman lead in a blockbuster, which is a shame. And we just keep seeing that they undermine it with the marketing. But honestly, I'm probably the lowest on John Wick in this podcast. Like they just don't really move the needle much for me. This, which might be why Ballerina to me does not look all that great, but I'd love to hear your thoughts as someone more in the John Wick world.
Yeah, I don't know anything about like Ballerina or about the character, but I'm excited for it. I really like the John Wick universe. I'm not like super invested in it by any means, but
did you watch the Continental?
No, like I'm not that invested to throw on a what is apparently a very bad TV show. But I am excited for this. I love Ana de Armas. I don't know how you couldn't, but I think she looks incredible in this, and like seeing John Wick pop up is just cool. But I'm excited for this. It's going to be like John Wick Jr., like an Iron Boy Jr. kind of thing with Ana de Armas, but very excited for this. Also, I think Ana de Armas and Keanu Reeves are like the same age, if I had to guess.
Really?
Age. Oh,
think
Jesus
not even
Christ.
close.
No, never mind. Keanu Reeves is, I didn't
60,
realize he
right?
was 60.
I mean,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Ana de Armas, I just like is older than I would like have thought. She's 36. I didn't realize Keanu Reeves was 60. Don't come at me.
That's crazy.
That's an all-time bad take from myself. Okay, my bad. He looks young. Good for him. He looks like a young guy. That's insane.
That's insane. But I mean, we saw Ana de Armas in a role that is probably be pretty similar to this in No Time to Die. You know, she does
she's awesome.
The gun fu, the kung fu, like she trained well for it. So, and the Knock Knock brothers reunited, or brother and sister reunited.
Crazy.
They're back together here. But yeah, John Wick franchise in a very interesting crux right now, because the Continental, I think even the biggest fan of the Continental can't deny that flopped. That was a miss. Now we're getting this. We're going to get the Donnie Yen spinoff. They're at like a turning point here where they could go down one avenue and build out this world and make it great, or they could have another Continental happen over and over, and they could kind of ruin something that was so great. So even though I'm not a fan, I hope they pull it off, because I love Ana de Armas and Ballerina. I hope it does well, but we'll see. Comes out next year, May 2nd, or no, that's Thunderbolts, May 2nd, June 6th. So a lot of stuff for 2025 starting to get released here. We got the new trailer for Gladiator 2. Nothing really new to add for me on my end, other than this movie just looks awesome, and I don't know how anyone could not be excited for it.
Looks great. Cool poster that looks like it came out in like 2003. Like, it's awesome. I'm all in for Gladiator 2.
Yep, all in. I don't know how anyone could not be excited for it. But maybe the best trailer of all, the first trailer for The Last of Us Season 2 was releasing in 2025. And I say best trailer of all, not necessarily saying that the end product will be better than anything we've already mentioned, because I'm excited for some of these other things more than Last of Us Season 2. But I think trailer-wise, that was just like a great trailer, like a great put-together trailer.
Gets the intrigue going, like gets the mystery of, like, obviously Abby joining the show. I've never played the games. I can't remember if you have or not. I know Seth did, but like I saw a little bit of uproar online. It's like, I guess the games are not chronological. And are they going to try doing the
time jump or
well, I know it's a time jump, like from game to game of like 6 years or 7 years or something. And some people are saying like Abby looks too similar because
Bella Ramsey.
Bella Ramsey. Yeah. Thank you. Bella Ramsey like looks the exact same as they did in season 1. I get that. But I think you can make them look a little bit older. Right. But I guess the game itself has like some jumping around from what I've heard. And people are worried that the show's not going to do that. And they're saying like the most interesting part of the game is the fact that the time jumps around. But we'll see if they do that in the show. But I'm amped, man. This looks, what a good first season. What a good show. I'm really hoping this is a hit.
Yeah, of all the ReelTok dedicated episodes to the TV season we've done, I think my favorite was probably when we covered The Last of Us. It was just a great first season. Very excited to see season 2. It's going to be very controversial, and then people are either going to love it or hate it. Whereas the first one, I feel like, was mostly just like most people loved it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough because I think some fans of the game are getting a little weary about like some things in the trailers. Are like, don't know if they'll pull this off right, but. I think it'll be great. I'm excited for it. It comes out.
Yeah, same.
No firm date, but it says first
early
half of 2025. Yeah.
And
then I just added this note in there because if you're watching this is or on day 1, this is Monday. So when you're done watching this episode, a new trailer for Robert Eggers' Nosferatu should be released. So, spend your day listening to some ReelTok and then watch the latest Nosferatu trailer.
Yeah.
Final quick bits of news. James Cameron has joined the board of directors for Stability AI. He said, I was at the forefront of CGI over 3 decades ago, and I've stayed on the cutting edge since. Now the intersection of generative AI and CGI image creation is the next wave. Thoughts?
I mean, like, I totally get where he's coming from. AI is such a weird thing, right? Because it's very, like, a lot of people say it's very anti-art. It's like, it's a way to, less people, like, use less money, less people, kind of thing. Like, I'm in corporate America. I work in an industry that like is trying to push the bounds of AI and use AI a lot. So I understand like from that side where corporations are coming from, right? And AI is a weird thing that like people just want to shit on as much as possible, because like a lot of the AI creations right now is you'll see on Twitter every once in a while. It's like AI Sorna created this movie that looks realistic, and it's like, this looks like the worst animated movie I've ever seen in my life. It's horrible. So I think one day, it probably will look as realistic as possible. But like, I don't know. At this point, you can tell when something's AI or not, in my opinion. And there's way to create like hyper realistic images, no doubt. But I think things are pretty easy to distinguish from AI and not right now. And it's just like taking a lot of work from like artists and stuff, and you take a lot of work from creatives in the movie. One of my favorite Twitter accounts is like images AI could never recreate, and it's just like Twitter interactions. That's just like hilarious. You'll never be able to take away like I sent you the picture earlier, Tyler, of Donald Trump like kind of lining up, and someone tweeted like, "Why's bro showing Blitz?" Like AI will never be able to tweet that hilarious of a tweet. But I don't know. James Cameron, like, I get it. He has been pushing CGI forever, and he wants to be at the forefront of technology. But I wish there was a way to do it without like costing people so many jobs and things. But that's all that business is right now, is like leaner and quicker is really all they want, right?
Yeah. I feel like me, you and George have interesting perspectives as we are in the corporate world. So it's like AI is like, it is inevitable. And if you actually look back at like when CGI was starting to become a thing, like there was a lot of uproar about that too, because practical production designers would be putting out of work, and a lot of stuff that you would have to do with like painters and set designers could just be replicated with the digital green screen.
Yeah.
But AI, James Cameron totally.
I think jobs will always evolve, right? So now you don't have maybe artists working on the set, but you have a lot of digital artists working on the image, and in the future you'll have a lot of digital AI artists. Like it's like jobs will always evolve around it. But yeah.
And art is no different than any other job, in the fact that if you don't adapt, you're gonna fail over time. Like you have to be able to change with the times. And it's just a fact of life right now. AI is not going anywhere. It's you're either going to embrace it or get kicked to the dust. James Cameron, you could totally call him a hypocrite, because he kind of is here, because he made a movie about the bad natures of AI, and beyond that, he makes a lot of movies about the environment. And one of the like things that a lot of people don't talk about AI is the amount of machine power and just like server farms that go into just like AI and generative AI and all these machine learning productive companies out there is like just wreaking havoc on the environment. So on multiple fronts, James Cameron just like a hypocrite here. And again, I don't want to see any generative CGI stuff in my movies. I think it looks like shit. So I'm not saying I'm pro AI, but it just is one of those things where like either you get with the times or get kicked to the curb. And that's just unfortunate matter. There's still going to be the brutalists of the world. There's still going to be the art house films of the world that are still going to be great and glorious. And I hope people keep championing those, but especially in like big budget blockbusters where these studios are all about refining their bottom dollar and trying to make as much money as possible. It's get with the times, or you're not getting hired if you want to be hired at probably like the 20th century studios and those kind of companies. So this is where a good opportunity for the Neons and the A24s of the world to maybe capitalize. But last two bits of news: Martin Scorsese's Jesus movie and Frank Sinatra biopic have been indefinitely postponed. There's plans to shoot both movies back to back this year, but that will no longer happen. We haven't heard much about The Wager recently either. Hope Martin's in like good health. I didn't
see anything about him not being, but he's
right. But it was kind of weird. There was just like all his stuff kind of halted, which is a little unfortunate, because I can't remember what it was. We probably talked about 50 Real Talks ago, where like Andrew Garfield dropped out of a project, and everyone's like, he probably dropped out of that because of the Jesus movie of Martin Scorsese. That that's all just like speculation, but kind of a bummer if like these production schedules are getting moved and he had to like lose out on projects. I can't remember what it was, but we were all excited for him to be in that, and then he had to drop out. So hopefully Marty's good. It sounds like he's good, but this also happens in movies all the time. We've probably talked about 7 different Luca Guadagnino projects in the works that are no longer going to be in the works. Like,
we just talked about Megalopolis for 30 minutes. That obviously a much younger director at the time, but was probably, if there was a podcast in 1983, they were talking about how Megalopolis got put on hold. And so, it does happen often. And like Scorsese, hopefully everything's good. He's getting older, man. It's probably hard to direct 2 movies back to back. people don't really know that like him and Ana de Armas are around the relative same age, but no, I hope he's in good health. I hope he's doing well.
Yeah. And
I can't get enough of his TikToks with his granddaughter, I believe it is.
I believe that's right, granddaughter. Yep.
More of those, please.
And then final bit of news, The Brutalist will release in December 20th in select theaters. A24 is the distributor. And the only reason I put this in here is just because like it's kind of a pet peeve of mine is like people love to like armchair quarterback on Twitter always. So this isn't anything new, but people love to act like they're like geniuses on Twitter all the time. Like if I was a production or a distribution
I would
company,
release it to everyone.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done like they know what they're doing. Like and people, I'm glad people started calling them out and like we're quoting it and like saying like they did the same thing with the Zone of Interest. The Zone of Interest made way more money than it otherwise would have. The Brutalist is a 3.5-hour war epic drama, low budget. That is going to be a hard watch. December 20th means that Oscar nominations are right around the corner. So this is going to be still in theaters when like, oh, it's nominated for 7 Oscars. Like this is a genius timing of a release.
It's not coming to VOD like the week after, like these movies that release everywhere are. It's going to be in theaters for a long haul. Yeah. It's just a pet peeve of mine when people are like, oh, the studios are so dumb. Like, oh, could they be any more bigger idiots? Like, why are the studios doing? I'm like, I promise you they're all very talented at their jobs and know exactly what they're doing. Yeah. And you see it time and time again when stuff gets pushed to VOD right away. Like, idiots, what are they doing? And it's like movie breaks record sales on VOD. It's like these people are all smarter than you. So just trust them. Just trust them. My most excited project of the rest of the year, because I know I'll be able to zip line during the middle of it or go bowling in the middle of it. So if I get bored during the 3.5-hour Brutalist screening, maybe AMC will have that $2 billion investment of the bowling alley that I can go hop out and go watch.
I love it. So that's all for trailers and news. That's our episode. So on Thursday we have a draft of the best movie themed Halloween costumes for 2024. So get you ready for it's definitely a draft. We recorded that before this at about 5 a.m. for me and first thing in the morning for Cam. So we it's definitely a draft, but we gave you 20 great Halloween costume ideas for this upcoming Halloween season that are movie and TV show themed that are going to be topical based on stuff released this year. And then on Friday, so patrons, we did not release La Hen review last Friday because I was just sick. Like this has been a flu game episode for me. I've been having to step away. I'm still sick, but so we didn't release La Hen on Friday. We're going to be releasing that like sometime in the next couple of days. And the next Friday we'll be having like a bonus, like trivia episode. Cam and I going through some trivia that only patrons are going to be able to see. So didn't have an episode last Friday, but patrons are going to get 2 episodes in the next week of Patreon exclusive stuff. So go check out our Patreon in the description down below. Join our Discord. Shout out to our executive producers, Sean Morales, Stefan Johnson, and Stefan Niebrick. Thank you all for making this podcast happen. Next week will be ReelTok episode 109, where Joker 2 is releasing. And it's getting to the time of year where it's towards the end of the year where like every week, like I felt it with Megalopolis this week. I feel it now Joker 2 next week, where it's like, oh, damn, like it's time for that movie to release already. Like I feel like it's just stuff's coming up. And then also the Platform 2 is next week as well on Netflix, which I watched the Platform 1 recently. So I'll watch the Platform 2. We'll see what it's all about. But Joker 2, Platform 2 next week. We will see you all on Thursday with our Halloween draft. Peace.
Bye, all.